in the amount of $36,820.17. B, minutes of meeting August 16th, 2023. C, minutes of study session August 23rd, 2023. Firm appointment of Ken Riley to the Bremerton Parks and Recreation Commission. E, confirm appointment of law offices of Alex Seidels, PLLC, as a City of Bremerton's administrative hearing examiner, and approve associated professional services agreement. E, contract modification agreement number 2 with Merchant Patrol Security Services Incorporated. And G, resolution number 3365 to authorize local park maintenance grant application with Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office to fund the Evergreen Park accessible playground surfacing replacement. That concludes the reading of the consent agenda.
Thank you. Nicely done. Does any member of the public wish to comment on any one of these specific items? Let me just check if there's anyone online. Hans, not common for consent agenda. All right, seeing no public comment, I'll go to the council for a motion. Councilmember Chamberlain.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented. I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I call for the question.
Councilmember Chamberlain,
Yes.
Councilmember Fry,
Yes.
Councilmember Goodnow,
Yes.
Councilmember Mockler,
Yes.
and Councilmember Coughlin.
Yes. Perfect. Motion approves. Next up is public recognition. As noted on the agenda, public recognition provides an opportunity for attendees to address the council on any issue that's not already on tonight's agenda. Now that it's election season, please refrain from any comments on political campaigns or ballot measures. Please either line up at the podium in the room, or if you're participating by Zoom, raise your hand. We do ask that you state your name for the record, and if you live or work in Bremerton, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. We'll have a timer system we'll be using, and I'll unfortunately cut you off right at 3 minutes, and thank you for your comments. And that's it. So with that, we'll start in the room. Please go ahead.
Mary Lou Long, longtime resident of Bremerton. I'm here once again to try to get the council and the mayor to respect our flag and to use it as the opening to our public meetings. And with that, I'll ask the council, the mayor, and everyone in the audience that would like to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I'm very appreciative of the fact that we have a population that stood for the flag. Very appreciative that they said the pledge. The least a person can do is stand at attention with respect to the flag, even if you don't want to say it. And I am very disappointed that the council once again did not stand to show respect. I'm here also to say that I am happy to see that the city has taken some steps to try to resolve the camping on the streets. If that's going to be on the agenda, I would like to speak to that.
Yes, that'll be on the agenda later.
Again, yes. So I will give my time up to the next person that would like to speak. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your comments. And just to, with a lot of people here tonight, if I could ask just to hold applause just for expediency. And note that for public recognition, it's I just want to state for folks who might be new, there's no back and forth dialogue or interaction. We're just here to listen to you and take your comments. So I want to mention that and mention on public comment, please order. If there are any, and again, if there are any comments regarding the camping ordinance later on, please hold those for now, but anything not related to that, go ahead. All right, with that, we'll resume in the room. Please go ahead.
Not related to that. My name is Eric Morley. I'm a Bremerton small business owner and the producer and organizer of Krampusnacht Bremerton. I'm here to clarify some misconceptions of the Krampus character in the annual Krampusnacht festival and other activities related to it in the city. You have been told that Krampus is the devil. Krampus is actually an ancient mythological creature with origins in the Bavarian region of Europe. Krampus is secular and is not connected to any theology or religion. In fact, the legend of Krampus predates St. Nicholas and modern-day Santa Claus, making him older than those characters. As with other fairy tale creatures, Krampus is an icon used to influence human behavior. While some might contend that his objective is to inspire treachery, that is the complete opposite of his mission. Krampus is a reminder of the consequence of naughty behavior. He is meant to promote the goodness of humankind by deterring hatred and malevolence to one another. Krampus doesn't care about your faith, religion, wealth, politics, or standing in the community. All he cares about is if you're naughty or if you're nice. On December 1st, 2023, Krampusnacht will enter its 4th year in Bremerton. The event has grown to include internationally recognized performers with imported costumes from Austria. It is actively promoted all over the Puget Sound and in other areas of the country even, making Bremerton attractive to tourism. Last year, we had over 30 costume performers and 32 registered businesses with over 2,000 attendees at the event. Many businesses told me that they had record sales and attendance in their establishments. Many attendees were quoted as saying they hadn't seen that many people in downtown Bremerton since the holidays, since before Kitsap Mall opened in Silverdale. I want to note that it has always been and always will be a rule that costume performers are forbidden from entering unregistered businesses, and performers will be banned from participation if they do. We are fortunate to live in a country that guarantees our right to speech and to faith. We are free to choose those things we support and those we don't. There are many things I don't like, and rather than speak against them, I choose not to attend. As a parent, I have always assessed whether an activity is appropriate for my family and my children, and I encourage all parents to do the same with Krampusnacht or any other activity presented to them. Ultimately, Krampus is an equalizer. I believe he's made his way to the United States and to Bremerton at a time of significant social polarization and contention. Perhaps Krampus is the character we need right now as a reminder to treat one another with a little more kindness and a little more love. Thank you so much for your support, and I look forward to this being a long-term Bremerton tradition.
Thank you for your comment. Continue in the room here. Over there.
Hello, I'm Erin Hale. I'm the Executive Director of the Downtown Bremerton Association. I would also like to talk about Krampus. I've been a photographer for over 23 years, capturing and observing human emotion and connection. Having been gifted the opportunity to photograph Krampus on December 1st of 22, I would like to share my takeaway. Krampus is art, expression, and abolition of fear and social anxiety. Krampus is love and acceptance. Krampus is economic vitality and the injection of eccentricity our city has craved. Krampus embraces the folklore, but welcomes Bremerton to adopt its own. In my marketing training, it's important to know your customer. It doesn't take much scientific data to understand that Bremerton is a city of engineers and ingenuity, employed mainly by the Navy. To cater to its clientele, there are several gaming stores, arcades, pinball pubs, and thriving spaces where a different way of thinking and interacting in the world is welcome. Within these spaces, neurodivergence is not only welcomed, but celebrated. COVID inspired a lot of social anxiety. With so many unknowns in our unstable environments, safe spaces are imperative to creating those welcoming spaces. Being able to put on a mask and costume and go outside helps people face what may ail their minds. There's safety in temporarily getting to play someone or something else. As a representative of the business community tasked with revitalization and economic vitality efforts, it is my pleasure to boast that Krampus's monthly meetups bring a host of patrons to each one of the rotating businesses that host Krampus, and the inclusive community Eric Morley has so brilliantly inspired. Everyone is welcome. Bremerton's Krampus is not the devil. Krampus is the refusal to allow what's perceived as ugly, different, unlovable, unstable, imperfect, and anxious to be held back from absolutely shining in our inclusive city. All are welcome. Also, there's no replacing Santa, also a pagan folk symbol promoted most notably to sell presents. If someone within the community embodied Santa and promoted all of the local businesses the way Eric Morley and Krampus have, we'd have a deeply successful city. The Downtown Bremerton Association welcomes the economic boost. And Winterfest and Magic and Minette, including Santa, will be happening on Saturday, December 2nd. And if you'd like to help with the planning, contact me at erin@downtownbremerton.org.
Thank you for your comment.
Allison Loris, downtown business owner. I just want to say that Krampus has brought a lot of fun and excitement to our downtown holiday shopping, and we appreciate it enormously. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public recognition? Yes, we'll keep going in the room here.
Diane Iverson, resident of Bremerton. A recent Kitsap Sun article detailed Mayor Wheeler's concern that the council's recent decision to choose pathways of 12 and 8 on the Warren Avenue Bridge may delay and possibly endanger funding for the entire Warren Avenue Bridge multimodal improvement project. I want to offer a different opinion as a member of the Warren Avenue Bridge Design Committee. The council's role is to review all viable options, hear staff and community recommendations, and make the final decision. That is what the council did. Without that leadership stemming back to March of 2021, we would have only been given the option to accept or reject an 8-foot sidewalk on both sides of the bridge, because the public works staff told council that no underbridge inspection truck existed that could inspect a bridge with a path that was 8 feet wide, wider than 8 feet. The bike community informed council that such trucks did exist and that safer alternatives that better conform to state and federal standards was the width of shared use paths should be considered. Council therefore expanded the scope of the design study so that wider, safer paths would be analyzed for feasibility. The exact language that council approved on April 7th, 2021 is the Bremerton City Council voted unanimously 7-0 to approve an engineering participating agreement with WashDOT, which is the scope of work included widen one or both sides of the bridge to obtain a desirable shared use path of 12 feet, excluding shoulders in accordance with WashDOT Chapter 1515. Verbal instructions from council included direction to study the proposal submitted to council by the West Sound Cycling Club, which included 12 and 14 shared use paths. The council is not the problem. The Public Works Director in a recorded committee meeting that I attended portrayed the West Sound proposal as crazy. With his bias against a 12-foot path, he continued to use the U-bit as the reason for not seriously considering wider paths on the bridge. 18 months into the design process, staff presented the design committee with 9 options, but again concluded that the original 8-foot option on both sides of the bridge could be inspected with the existing U-bits. That was incorrect. They were wrong. The existing WashDOT U-bit fleet can inspect a bridge with wider 10-foot paths.
10 seconds.
There was a predetermined bias from the beginning that did not include a safe way for all ages and abilities to use our bridge. The council was not the problem. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you for your comment. We have anyone online? I'm so sorry, folks. You just have to be out of the main area. You can hold the signs in back, but you can't disrupt the meeting. Are you here for public recognition? Okay. Then yes, you may take the podium, please state your name and if you live or work in Bremerton. And again, anything that's not on the camping ordinance.
I live in Bremerton.
Okay, thank you for your comment. All right, is anyone online for public recognition? And ma'am, at this point, please be behind the podium.
What about the 2 minutes? Don't I get 2 minutes?
Are you done with your comment, ma'am, or no?
Instead of housing violent sexual predators and pedophiles, house our homeless.
Okay.
Instead of housing our housing violent sexual predators and pedophiles, house our homeless. Instead of housing our violent sexual predators, house our homeless.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. Let's go to the next. Person,
Suicide is the
one at a
real
time.
epidemic.
Okay, your 3 minutes starts. Yes, please go ahead.
Homelessness is where that leads. Suicide is the real epidemic. Homelessness is where that leads.
Okay, thank you for your comment. All right, let's continue in the room here. Yes, sir, please go ahead.
Hi, good evening to Council President and the council members. My name is Jane. I'm the Vice President of the Charleston Business District. Again, good evening to the mayor and the rest of the city staff that's here. I wanted to share with you some great news, or maybe a question. Do you know what happens at 3 o'clock in the morning on Friday mornings, starting September 1st? And I see a couple of smiles because we've been working with the Public Works Department, and I'm not going to pronounce Chance's last name, but we met with Chance, and he came up with a schedule where the Public Works will be sweeping the streets in both the Charleston district and in downtown Bremerton, so we end up with a sparkling clean city on weekends, and it's just another step in bringing beautifying Bremerton. And that's a great team effort that's happening. We've been doing Tidy Up Tuesdays, which involves the merchants down on the Callow Street in cleaning up the fronts of their stores. But this takes it to a whole nother level. I'd also like to share with council and to the members of the public that we're having our first car show on September 23rd, which is a Saturday, between 6th Street and 9th Street, which in the future could result in that area being an ideal spot to have a festival street. So we would encourage the council to continue to look at ways to fund that in the future. The district has our meeting that happens each month, and that will be on Tuesday the 19th. And a special thanks to the Parks Department. If you drive around Bremerton, you can see lots of their efforts in flowers and containers. They've recycled some of the planters from the Manette project, brought them down to Callow, low-cost thing, and it's made the whole area look just that much better. So we really appreciate all of the efforts that the city has done. And tonight, I know there's a lot of people waiting to talk about some very important issues that they have a passion on. And I can tell you that whatever your passion is, it's been my experience in the last year and a half I've been coming to these meetings that you can work with the council and they listen to you. And I want to thank you for doing that, because I know you're going to listen to the rest of the group tonight. So with that, it's on to the rest of the group. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Yes, please go ahead.
I'm Aljalyn Sperber. I'm the new executive director for Visit Kitsap. Some of you may have known me from a recent grant that funded 20 small businesses in Silverdale and Bremerton, as well as a one-night fundraiser for a local nonprofit that raised $30,000 for their first fundraiser ever. I'm really invested in this community. I wanted to take this time to share my vision as in my role as a new executive director for Visit Kitsap. I envision Kitsap as a haven where diversity is celebrated and inclusivity thrives, a place where individuals, irrespective of their origins, can envision themselves partaking in our scenic water trails, supporting local enterprises, savoring the culinary delights of our eateries, and immersing themselves in the life of our vibrant community. My aspiration goes beyond conventional tourism. It extends to weaving a fabric of belonging for everyone, for BIPOC, LGBTQIA+, people with disabilities, and individuals of all ages and sizes. Kitsap Peninsula will be a warm embrace and a canvas for their unique stories. My vision for Kitsap is to transform it into a globally recognized destination that embraces diversity and inclusivity. I'm committed to a place where everyone, regardless of their background, feels a genuine sense of belonging. I have shared a vision which you can visit or you can check out on visitkitsap.com, but I'm excited to be invited to your spaces to learn how I can share your stories and to share more about our wonderful community here in Kitsap and Bremerton.
Thank you for your comments.
So I'm Ed, I'm a resident. I have a question, not a question, statement. Over on Austin Drive, crossing Kitsap Way, right when you cross Austin Drive and you try to go to the other side of the street, there is no crosswalk. There is no mechanism to safely cross the road, to get to the bus stop, to leave, get off the bus stop across the road, or any mechanism. So when my family and I go to Nad Park, somewhere like that, is literally, it's always a risk trying to get over to that park. And down the road by Apple Store, Red Apple, there's a crosswalk with lights. If there could be another crosswalk towards that park, that would be greatly appreciated. Also, the other thing is the park is not heavily regulated in the sense that supervision. There's a lot of people that go there and drink excessively, do drugs, and they leave their byproducts of those activities left there. And for having little children and trying to go through the park, it's kind of risky, and you're always wondering what if. So if there could be a little more supervision by the police or by the parks or something. And lastly, real quick is if there was a way to do some type of fundraising to create a playground like there is at Evergreen, if something like that could happen, where we could, the community could be involved in that, where we could generate funds, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for your comments. And can I ask you at some point tonight just to leave your contact information with Ms. Grenier over there? And I know the mayor's office is able to respond to some of those and be able to reach out to you. Excellent. Thank you. Yes, please go ahead.
Buenas tardes. Good evening, Honorable Council, City Council, and Mayor Wheeler. My name is Martita May. Most of you know me here in the community, leader of the Latino community, and also founder and co-founder of many organizations. We had two events. I'm going to start with the event for the, we're celebrating the Mexican Independence Day on Sunday, September 17th, and also is Mexican and Latin American Independence Day. And we're going to be celebrating at the Kitsap Mall by the swap meet. So we're gonna have some food and music. So also I'm bringing community resources. So if there are organizations here, you are so welcome to join us starting at 11 o'clock. You can set up your informational booth and it is free of charge. So we want to bring resources to the community during the event. And also, I'm a co-founder of 9/11 SOS. I don't know if Ms. Karen Vargas is here. We are the founders of the 9/11 SOS event. Is Karen in the room? Okay, so we are inviting also our community to celebrate the 9/11 SOS event. It is a venue that we pay respect and honor our first responders and honor the victims of the night that's fallen the 9/11. But also we have community resources there. If you are interested, come and celebrate with us and honor our victims, please come. And their resources are about emergency preparedness. So please join us this Sunday, September 10th at 9 a.m. And you are so welcome to participate with us. Karen Vargas, she's here. I'm going to give the microphone to her as well. Thank you so much, and looking forward to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you. keep going in the room.
Hello, everybody. It's my first time. My name is Dwayne Baskins. I'm a retired nurse. I own a home down right off Callow on between 11th and 9th, right there by Safeway. And I just want to recount the problem that we have with the homeless living there and owning that property for 20 years. Saturday,
I'm so sorry. Is this regarding specifically the
the camping ordinance, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and I could just ask you to hold your comments until we get to that agenda item.
Oh, that's not on the agenda today?
It's on the agenda. It's just, this is public recognition of anything not on the agenda.
Oh, okay, then I'd like to propose whatever it's called to plagiarize the bill that the Puyallup Council just approved to outlaw all shopping carts that aren't on the groceries property. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Roy Runyon, District 6, Bremerton. First, something for the Public Works Director. So District 6 just saw a large chip seal project completed. And between North Callow and Wyckoff, the pavement is starting to ripple. I don't know if that was a function of the heat. I might want to check that out, see what the situation is there. So they did a pretty good job in the area. It was kind of disruptive for a while, but turned out pretty nice. Second thing is also a public works thing in the bridge, the Warren Avenue Bridge. If that project goes over budget, who gets to pay for that? You know, the bulk of the money is coming from the state, but if it goes over the budget, who pays for that? Are you folks willing to cough out of your own pockets the amount of money necessary to complete the project? Of course not. We're going to do it. Think about that. The other thing I want to talk about is the Bremerton Municipal Court. You know, when I found out that the court was shut down, I put a public records request in with the city to find out what was going on. I was told there were no documents, no responsive documents. Come to find out, there's been a huge amount of cycling of employees through the court. The Kitsap Sun put a public records request and got a bunch of documents, I assume. I was at the Kitsap County Court and heard from some bailiffs, I was there on jury duty selection, that there was going to be a contract between the city of Bremerton and Kitsap County to handle some of our court duties. So I did some research. It's wonderful to have public records available online. And, you know, we're constantly fighting for transparency in governments at all levels. But so this was interlocal agreement 9197 with Kitsap County Court for Court Services, specifically titled an interlocal agreement between the city of Bremerton and Kitsap County for the prosecution, defense, and adjudication of gross misdemeanor and misdemeanor violations of state laws occurring within the boundaries of the city of Bremerton. So this went into effect July of this year and will conclude the end of this year. And the only dollar figure mentioned in this is $500 per prosecution for each misdemeanor or gross misdemeanor. So how much money do we expect this to cost us? You know, when I was on the council, I went to bat for the court to maintain a municipal court, independent municipal court. We had a previous mayor who wanted to eliminate the municipal court and contract with the county. You know, we put a lot of dollars into this. We gave the court a decent home that the citizens deserve, and now it's dysfunctional. So I'd like to find out how much do you guys expect that we're going to pay in addition to what we have budgeted now for court services with the county now. This is a ridiculous situation.
Thank you for your comments. And if you write under the city council email address, we can send you the minutes of the meeting where that was all discussed. All right, next up.
Good afternoon. My name is Adrian Wright. A couple things after from district, by the way. A couple things that have been brought to my attention, particularly talking with my neighbors, that has to do with road traffic and speed, particularly with kids around. And I'll name off a couple of roads: Sylvan Way, Sheridan, and Rydell. Also, the concern from citizens, local neighbors, in regards to housing, particularly landlords and protection, as well as a large concern regarding crime and particularly crime watch programs. If it's possible, I'd like to be able to talk with city employees in order to address these problems and come up with solutions that actually fit the needs of your local citizens, particularly East Bremerton. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And again, if you're able to either send an email to the city council or leave your contact information with the mayor, I think Director Nutt can come chat with you there. Excellent. Anyone else in the room for public recognition? I see one in the back, one or two. Yes, please go ahead. Folks can just line up so we know who's left. All right, thank you.
Yes, my name is Robert Carries. I'm a Bremerton resident. My question is, as a homeowner, property owner, I have a trailer that I travel around in, and I cannot park in front of my own property for more than 5 days without getting a ticket. I also own another van that was sitting in front of my house, in front of my property. I got a ticket. It was removed off my van. I got down in the letter in the mail, $75 ticket. However, I drive up and down Sheridan Road almost every day, and there's been a van, an RV, and a car stuck there. They've been there for months. Nothing's happened. I've seen tickets on their things. They were removed. Okay, why am I, as a resident homeowner, being fined for a car that's in front of my property that I own? Why can't I have my own trailer in front of my property for more than 5 days? I have to move it around the corner or get special permission from the parking department, say, hey, I'm soon here, I'm gonna be taken off for another week. And they say, no. At first, they thought I had a semi truck. I said, no. I said, it's a trailer, it's a 20-foot trailer. But yet this RV and this homeless people are sitting there on Sheridan Way for months and months and months. Now, I gotta go down here and fight this ticket because I don't believe it's right that I have to pay $75 to have a car parked in front of my property. And I have to move my trailer. I have to now pay somewhere else to have it, that's fine. But when I get a ticket on that thing saying I have to move it, if I don't, I'm gonna get a ticket and possibly have it impounded. So we need to figure out what the heck's going on with the parking situations around this town. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, City Council, Robert Parker. Recently, I have read in the newspaper that the mayor had said that he's going to overlook certain laws and ordinances and things like this. And that brings a really question to my mind of where is the list of the laws that we're not going to enforce, the ones that we are going to enforce, and who are we choosing to discriminate against? Because that's what you're doing. You had the gentleman up here that just got a $75 fine for his. I was just down there at Martin Luther Street, and why aren't you ticketing that RV? Are you saying because maybe he has a home or maybe he makes more money, you're going to put a different set of laws? Well, I think we have a constitution against that kind of stuff. When do you guys get the authority to start picking and choosing and discriminating against some of the citizens, some of the businesses in this county and in this city? I'm a contractor that deals around here. If you're going to do those little things that you're going to set aside properties for people to move onto for homeless camps, I want my consideration for all of my zoning as loose as you're making it for those properties. Because I can tell you that it will cost us
Comment
to do that kind of
specifically on the
stuff.
camping ordinance, please hold on to, but everything else, please go ahead.
Excuse me?
Just any comments relating to the camping ordinance, to be fair to everyone, please hold on to those comments, but
Okay,
besides that, please go ahead.
okay. My concern is that we're selectively enforcing and we're picking and choosing. And that infringes upon my rights. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I encourage you to reach out to the mayor for anything regarding enforcement or city personnel, because that's under the administration. Excellent. All right. Is there anyone online for public recognition? No hands up? Oh, we see one. Yes, let's go online. Marlon Cameron, please go ahead.
Marwan Cameron, District 4. Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor. My comment tonight is just to say that it's really wonderful to see all the people in the room and that the absence of public comment at City Council meetings deprives citizens of crucial avenue for civic engagement and transparent governance, hindering the democratic process and limiting community input on important local issues. As you've heard tonight, no issues are superfluous, but those who don't show up or only when there's a problem will likely feel that democracy does not work for them. Getting involved, sending a representative, being heard, and actively participating in the public comment sessions are vital in the steps to changing and ensuring a more inclusive and responsive local government. If you don't make your voices heard, things will be done to you and not for you. Just encourage everyone to continue to come and make their voices heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public recognition, either online or in the room? Going once. Oh.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. I'm Mike Simpson. I live in District 6, and like Mr. Parker and this other gentleman that mentioned, it is shocking to me that the city would casually disregard the ordinances that it passes. I know, for instance, that there is signage that's put out in the city, posted on the city's light poles and telephone poles that have been complained about on the Bremerton One app several times, advertising for a business here in the city. Now, this is unfair to other business owners in the city because, well, this business, it gets advertising and it doesn't pay for the signage that other businesses have to do. This is unfair. And it is a constitutional issue. It's a 14th Amendment issue because they're being treated differently than other businesses. And that is a shock to the conscience. It should not happen. And this needs to be rectified. It should have been rectified when it was complained about on multiple occasions. And yet it still goes unaddressed. I hope that the City Council will delve into this issue and find out what's going on and make a good decision about it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. And I see Mayor Wheeler's in some of these comments. I know we're addressing administration if you wanted to respond. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'll cover a little more later, but just the idea, just want to correct a bit of misinformation. Everywhere in the city, we may look to install a shelter or transitional housing, or even what we might call a outdoor shelter, which is similar to a campground. That will all be per zoning that is currently in place. So, we can send the code that authorizes it to anybody who has any questions. So thank you.
So thank you, Mayor. All right. Anyone else for public recognition? Going once, going twice, seeing none in the room and none online, I'll go ahead and close public recognition and we'll move on to general business. Over to our acting clerk, Director Riley. Or I can read it either way.
Yeah.
I'll just go ahead and read it. So now we're moving to item 6B, which is ordinance number 5482 to amend BMC chapter 9.32 entitled quote unauthorized camping, unquote. And again, the council has decided tonight that we are just going to hear from legal and the administration on an update to this, what we've worked on in study session, proposed change by the mayor. We'll take public comment. But again, there will be no discussion by the council or vote on this item tonight. All right, with that, I'll turn it over, I believe, to Attorney Fennell to present the status of this item.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Maybe just a little louder, get a little closer.
Yeah, I do tend to be soft-spoken. I apologize. So just to go over what information has been provided so far, there are a few copies of some maps out on the back table. Way more of you showed up than I think there were maps printed, but I am going to go over the map on the screen. So if you haven't seen it yet, you'll be able to see it tonight. There was also information uploaded to the City Council's packet late this afternoon that has the map, as well as a copy of a draft ordinance that was also uploaded. And with that, I will begin. First, to go over kind of where we have come and where we are right now. So the City Council has met several times to discuss the proposed update to the unauthorized camping ordinance. And this was set as a part of the council's goals for this year. It relates to some Ninth Circuit decisions that held that other cities who had similar codes, that their codes were unconstitutional, and that because of that, we needed to update our codes as well. And the city council started working on this with a small group right away, and then as a group in the study session setting earlier this summer. And so essentially the city council has been looking at whether there would be limitations on the manner in which people camp, the time in which people can camp, or the particular places in which people can camp. That's what the Ninth Circuit cases said was permissible. What's not permissible is prohibiting camping everywhere all the time. And so some cities have taken an approach to prohibit camping everywhere between certain hours. For example, 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. or something like that. Those time-based restrictions were rejected by the city council, and we kept looking at other options. One of those is whether there are certain city properties that can be excluded while other city properties remain open. The city council, as a majority, began to favor that approach, that rather than having people relocate every day, basically, which is what some cities have done, that certain city properties would be set aside, and those properties would be where the city enforced a camping prohibition all the time.
I'm just gonna ask a little closer to the mic still. I just want to
Sure.
make sure it gets picked up.
So that there would be certain city properties that were prohibited, where camping was prohibited all the time, and other city properties, or I guess the remaining city properties, in which enforcement would be suspended if there was no shelter space available at the time the ordinance is sought, enforcement is sought. And so the city councils looked at a variety of definitions that other communities have used in drafting their ordinances, especially as with regard to shelter space, with regard to what properties are off limits for camping all the time. And through those discussions in the last few study sessions, the city council came up with a definition of available shelter space. I did tweak that some for the ordinance that is in the packet tonight based on some feedback that I got at the last study session. Certainly it looks like the council's made the decision to continue to discuss the ordinance next study session. We can have some more discussion about that. But the amendments that I made to the definition of available shelter space were basically just done for clarity. The prohibition on camping section that the council had kind of reached was about whether or not, what spaces did the council want to designate as being off limits to camping all the time. Those were the ones that the council decided were kind of the priority, which was parks, public right-of-way areas, specified city properties like the municipal court complex or the police station, fire stations, that sort of thing. And areas that aren't open to the public, and primarily for the city of Bremerton, that's our very large watershed out to the west of town. And so those aren't areas that are open to the public. They're posted with no trespassing. And so those would also remain protected. And so between last meeting and this meeting, we were going to be looking at what was left whenever you take those out. I did change the definition of right-of-way or of involving sidewalks, planting strips, and curb areas to include the right-of-way. That discussion was from a previous study session where the council indicated an intent to prohibit camping, for example, in what people believe is like their yard when it's on a sidewalk, and whether it's the sidewalk, the landscaping strip between the sidewalk and the street, or whether it's on the right-of-way often actually continues between the sidewalk and the person's yard. And so those were all of the areas that I think encompassed what council had in mind. And so with that, I'll switch over to looking at the areas that were not impacted by those restrictions. And that's what you have in the map. And so if you have a copy of the map, or you have a neighbor who has a copy of the map, or you're looking online and you have a copy of the map, this is city property that was identified. In the legend there states it's the camping ordinance enforcement is suspended. Yes or no? And so what that means is the way that the code is written is that in certain areas, when the camping ordinance is suspended, there would not be a prohibition in these areas at that time. And so these would be places where if there was no shelter space available, a person would be able to camp, and the city would not enforce the no camping ordinance on that person at that time, at that place. Are you ready to go to the map now?
Yes, if you have it ready to display and
Sure, it'll
look
take
at, yeah.
just a moment. All right, so good. Okay. So this is the map that I was able to get some help with creating, and it sets aside certain parcels, but it's not very helpful to look at it, at least without being able to zoom in. And so I'm just going to start with, I'm not going to go over every single property on here, but I'm going to go through sort of just how this map looks and why it looks the way it does. So I think everyone at least is pretty familiar with where City Hall is. So I'll kind of start down in this area here. This is, I guess, kind of like our downtown core area. And you can see from looking at the legend here that there are 5 properties up at the corner of Warren and 11th. And another property at the corner of 11th and Pacific. To get an idea of how, I'm going to have another slide presentation to kind of show you those at street level. But those are some that are available in this particular area where we are right now. Additionally, down Burwell, there's several properties, and those are all broken up, though. There's 4 pieces of property down here, and those are along the Burwell core right there. There's little pieces that are essentially like corners of property where sidewalks and roads, take a turn, and it's like a triangle where it's not right of way, but it's a city parcel. And there's also, and these are spread out throughout the city. There aren't very many big chunks of land. The largest parcel is 40 acres. That is north of, on the north part of town. It is up here. It's the big green one with the little dot. That is near Sugar Pine Drive. The area in the inside is a reservoir that is fenced off, but the area around it is forested, and that is a 40-acre piece. The smallest piece is actually over in Minette. It is this little corner at the corner of Wheaton and Winfield, and I'll show you a picture of what that looks like here in a minute. Unfortunately, it would be nice if these you could actually click them and get street view, but you don't. You just get parcel data. There's an additional piece that I'll show you on the street view that's approximately 0.44 acres that is behind Wheaton Way, businesses, and kind of adjoining this neighborhood. This is a 0.44 acre parcel that is also, it's not right of way, it's a city parcel. So with that, I will switch off of sharing this screen and go over to IT, who can share the PowerPoint. Stop it. So this was the first one I talked about. This is just the street view angle of the 11th and Pacific. It's kind of a half parcel. It's 0.1 acres it's located at the end of Pacific, just right down here from City Hall. Next slide, please. Sure. This is the corner of 11th and Warren. The city actually has 5 parcels on the corner of 11th and Warren. This one, or actually one parcel on the corner of 11th and Warren that's 0.19 acres. And then next slide. These are right next door. This is 12th and Warren, and it's 0.29 acres. So next slide, please.
So I'm just going to ask for quiet in the audience so everyone can hear. Thank you.
Sure. This is the part I was talking about. That's the photo here. You'll notice at the top of the photo there's a parking lot, and this is the 0.44 acre parcel that is located behind. It's actually on a different elevation than the businesses below it. It is level with their second floors. So you can kind of get the sense of that when you look at the next slide. It's the street view. And so this runs along Maple Avenue in that area. Next slide. This is what I was talking about, like the corner areas. It's this one that's in Manette. It's relatively small. It does have good access to sidewalks and whatnot, but it is quite small. This next slide, please. A similar corner just up from the shipyard there on Lafayette and Rogers. Next slide. Burwell, the tracks there, and this was something we found when we were manipulating the data, that some of the parcels are still linked together in parcel search. And so the total of the next 4 slides equals 0.25 acres. But it's 4 pieces of property, or 4 triangles on the map that you're looking at along Burwell. So it's the next 4 slides. That's the one at Arvon. And that one's just a triangle in Burwell. So next slide. This one is not actually in the city limits, but it is a city property. It's actually within the county. It's across from the Bug Museum, if you're familiar with that. And it's my understanding from talking with the folks at the county, there is an encampment there right now. It's 0.34 acres. The next slide, please. So you notice on the map, there's some places where it's just empty lots. Those don't necessarily have sidewalks or anything like that, but I wanted to have a picture of those so that you could see what they look like. There's this one on Constitution, and there's another one on Constitution that is in the next slide that's on Farragut. So they're just, don't know the history of the lot. I didn't have a chance to research that, but they are empty lots. So next slide. This is the Oyster Bay aerial view. As you can see, this is a heavily forested site, not great access. There has been folks camping in there in the past, so it might appeal to some folks, but not others. And like I said, we have had people camping in here. It's 3 acres, and it's right along Oyster Bay and just off of Kitsap Way. So next slide. This one, I had no idea that the city even owned. This is out on Lakehurst Drive near Kitsap Lake. City owns 1.19 acres out there. There's the aerial view, but this is what it looks like when you go out there. I'm not sure if people camp there or not, but it's heavily forested and lots of vegetation in there. The Sugar Pine Drive, this is the largest parcel that was identified. And this is the one that has a little hole in it. That's the larger one at the north side of the city. That is the entrance from Sugar Pine Drive. This is a road right now that has a gate on it, and it leads into a neighborhood and back to the reservoir. And the next slide, please, is another entrance off Nantucket Street, that this is a new neighborhood and there's not vehicular access, but there is a trail back there and it's a forested property, like I said. So the map, like I said, has the properties that were identified when we applied the filters basically that the council had set, and happy to get into more depth about those next week at the study session.
Perfect, thank you. And so just want to restate to make sure it's factual, since it's gonna get complicated. When shelter space is available for somebody, the standing ordinances, there's no camping anywhere in the city. When shelter space is not available for somebody, enforcement is suspended on these properties that you were just presenting. And if somebody is contacted by law enforcement who is in a different area, they would be provided a map of these areas where enforcement would be suspended.
Right, there's not, there wouldn't be any, like if they were camping, let's say on the corner of Warren and 11th, and it was at a time that we didn't have shelter space available, there wouldn't be any enforcement against that person.
So thank you. Unless there's anything, I'm assuming that's it for your presentation.
That's all the information I have for tonight.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Attorney Fennell. Much appreciated. And to, I know the public works staff who got that information together. And the next one, give the floor.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll allow that one real quick, but just.
Sure, so I don't want to misquote myself. So the camp.
Yeah.
Camp means to dwell, reside within, or use camping facilities for temporary or permanent habitation or housing, and or to use camping paraphernalia. That's how it's defined in the code in the definitions section.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Attorney Fennell. All right, with that, I want to give the floor to the mayor, who I know sent us a letter recently with another suggested change for us to consider at our next study session. So thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you, council, members of the audience. And before I get started, I just want to let you know that regardless of when or in what manner you create an ordinance, I will continue working to ensure a shelter opens on November 1st. So that is coming. I will continue to research properties in the city of Bremerton and or partners outside of the city to locate another shelter or a place for transitional housing or something that we call an outdoor shelter, which could look like a campground, only more structured with more facilities. That will involve keeping the partnerships, establishing partnerships for funding operations. New affordable housing is on the way. I will ensure the city remains a partner in those efforts and pushes those over the goal line. So that's coming. Those announcements will be coming soon. When this ordinance is enacted, and you create the ordinance, there will be a period of time where prior to enforcement, there will be an education and some outreach into the communities that have established their camping areas. So that will happen first. There will be compassion, empathy, education, restraint. And so I'm going to read the letter just for all of you that I sent to you on Saturday morning. Dear Council, thank you for your work creating an ordinance that prohibits camping in our parks, along our streets, and in and around certain public buildings and properties. I sincerely appreciate Council's willingness to prioritize preservation of these places for the benefit of our entire community while respecting the rights of our unhoused community neighbors. Because I share your concerns about the impacts of unauthorized camping on our community, I respectfully request that the council consider an amendment to the enforcement provision of BMC 9.32 and make a violation of this ordinance a misdemeanor without the prior infractions. The code currently requires 3 committed infractions before a violation is a misdemeanor. This means the infraction has been filed with the court and a judge has entered judgment against the person finding that they violated the ordinance. it could take months before 3 infractions are found committed and a person violating the ordinance is facing a misdemeanor. The escalating scheme worked for Bremerton in the past, but unfortunately, circumstances have changed. First and foremost, we did not have encampments in the past like we do now after a period of no enforcement. I am hearing from the community members daily who want something done now about camping and planting strips abutting their properties. Our police officers have experience interacting with people living on the street in these problem areas and anticipate if this ordinance is passed that some people camping in prohibited areas are not going to move to a different area or a shelter when asked. They will refuse. This means the person reporting a violation could have to wait months for the person violating the code to move or be moved, even when there is another place to go or another shelter available. Making a violation of this ordinance a misdemeanor will give law enforcement a tool to incentivize compliance earlier. Additionally, police department staffing levels, as well as effective use of resources and time, are important considerations for managing enforcement. The draft ordinance as proposed requires at least 4 separate contacts before the person violating the ordinance can be charged with a criminal offense. These contacts are unlikely to be brief. Many people experiencing homelessness have behavioral health issues that will necessitate more time and officer involvement for each contact. A police officer working with multiple individuals across the city would be required to interact with each one of these at least 4 times under the proposed threshold. Making a violation of this ordinance a misdemeanor will reduce the number of law enforcement contacts involved in enforcing this ordinance. As a result, police response times for life safety issues and other 911 calls will have a better chance of being sustained at current levels. Citizens are also more likely to receive faster relief once a camping issue is reported. Finally, our police practices have changed in response to current needs. Our officers are now trained in de-escalation and interacting with vulnerable populations. There is a focus on implementing best practices to reduce use of force incidents. We want voluntary compliance. No one wants to see surprise enforcement on unsuspecting people experiencing homelessness that results in them going to jail. I am asking the council to trust the expertise and discretion of our police department to enforce this ordinance fairly and effectively. Let good policing take the place of the months-long infractions and give our police officers the tools they need to effectively enforce the ordinance the council has crafted. So a draft of the proposed changes was attached for your consideration. And of course, we'll be ready and happy to discuss this at the next study session.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mayor Wheeler. Okay, with that, we'll go to public comment, but before I begin, can I just get a rough show of hands of who is planning to speak on this item? Seen a large number. I'm guessing we have some online. I'm gonna, just in the issue of making sure everybody has a chance to speak, given the large number, change the public comment time from 3 minutes to 2 minutes, just so we can fit in people. I know folks have dinner to get to and everything. So we'll limit each public comment to 2 minutes. And again, please to just speak on this issue. Perfect. All right, please line up at the podium. And again, please we request you state your name for the record and if you live or work in Bremerton.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Dawn Michelle Wilson. Usually myself together to come to these meetings. I dress a little differently. I walk a little differently.
I'm so sorry, ma'am. Let's reset your timer and just get a little more quiet in the room so we can hear you. Yeah, we'll reset that to the 2 minutes. All right, I got my own clock here. You're good to begin. Thank you.
Thank you. I started with saying that I usually dress a little different to come to these meetings. I try to dress and walk and talk a little differently because I bounce back and forth between the streets and here. But today I came in the very same clothes that I rock in all day long, complete with my Narcan and my first aid kit in my little bag that I carry around with me. Myself, along with many others, have spent every extra second of every waking day that we have down on MLK and now Broadway, attempting to help those down there get off the streets. Am I crazy? That's debatable. It's debatable. It's okay. There are all sorts of things. There's safety issues. There's all sorts of things going on down there that we're very aware of. The reality is that every single soul out there is somebody, someone. I've already shared my story with you, and I want to remind you that I was somebody, someone. You'd be hard pressed today to find somebody who would tell you that my life wasn't worth saving. I don't believe that I have all the answers. But after spending 23 years in addiction myself and spending more than a decade doing outreach, I might know a thing or two. Yet the only person on this board that has reached out to me is Councilwoman Chamberlain. I just want to let that set in for a second. In fact, I saw you this morning, Mayor Wheeler, as I was walking the block on the corner of Broadway and 6th. You politely said hello and kept walking. I also saw you, Councilmember Conklin, on the corner of, I believe it's Park and MLK. Yet I didn't see either of you come down onto the street. I implore all of you to take a moment to meet the individuals whose lives you will be directly affecting by the decisions you make.
That's 2 minutes. Thank you so much for your comments. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jocelyn. I'm a citizen of Bremerton, and I've been here to every meeting. I'm part of the Bremerton Prayer Walk. We rock the block with Dawn Michelle, Kimmy Sieben, a variety of individuals, and we're having some great successes right now. I know Dawn Michelle was going to go ahead and address like how many people we have gotten off the streets through the relationships that we have formed with them, through the trust that they have with us. And I would encourage anyone, if you want to go down and see what's happening down there, if any of the neighbors that are going to come up here, and I know that there is a lot of issue with homeowners and a lot of issues on a variety of different things, to contact us. We're available at all times to come down there and address any situation, because we do have that relationship with individuals. And the problem is that we have so many people wanting to come out of this type of situation. I have not met one person on the street that wants to be homeless, contrary to many people suggesting otherwise. I have not met one person, once they get clean, say, I wish I could go back to addiction. It was so great. And so we have the opportunity here to love so hard and show that Bremerton is different. You know, we're looking at a bunch of different cities, different ordinances. I believe the one that this council is looking at now is completely unconstitutional, and I would encourage you to go back to the drawing board because of the fact of the constitutional, our United States Constitution that's being violated with this. So I would encourage that to do something else. I also want to commend you guys because we do need an open air shelter, but we need one centralized so that we can get our people off the street, off the neighbor's lawn where there's issues, and we can provide some real meaningful help. So I'm really encouraged by this council, and I would suggest that you focus on that instead of focusing on criminalizing homelessness. I myself has come from homeless, and I'm a smart girl, and I couldn't figure out how to get out of there by myself. And so we need to have the resources available. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, my name is Tiffany Hine. I'm a community leader. I work in the community and I worship in the community. And most importantly, I have 2 boys that are being educated in this community. I also get to engage with about 500 scholars that need a voice in this matter. I speak for them today. Thank you for allowing me to share my concerns about homelessness and unhoused individuals in our community, specifically on Martin Luther King Street in Bremerton. I wanted to be clear that you should have a deep passion about this issue and the impact it has on your community. Homeless is indeed a complex and pressing problem. It is vital for community leaders like yourself to advocate for meaningful solutions. My suggestion for the mayor and city leaders to actively engage with this issue is to involve Leadership Kickstart Scholars of 2024 and find solutions that are commendable. Here's a breakdown of my points and some recommendations on how to proceed. Number one, mayor involvement. I encourage the mayor to walk down Martin Luther King Street and witness the situation firsthand when you are walking to work. This can provide valuable insight into the challenges faced by unhoused individuals in this area. Engage with the community is an essential step in addressing this issue. Number two, Leadership Kickstart Scholars. Involving Leadership Kickstart Scholars and finding solutions to homelessness is a great idea. They can bring fresh perspectives and ideas to the table. The mayor should consider forming a task force to commit a committee with these scholars to explore comprehensive solutions. Number three, I'm not going to be able to finish it all, so I'll leave it. But number three, safety concerns. Addressing the safety concern is critical. Collaborating with the local law enforcement agency to ensure the safeties of both unhoused population and the community. Exploring strategies and such community policies and outreach building and providing support to these needs. I just want to say in closing, I didn't get to say all my points, but by continuing to advocating and for changing engagement committee and local leaders, you can play a crucial role in finding meaningful solutions to the crisis on MLK Street. I want to leave this quote with you. The time is always right to do what is right. A quote by Martin Luther King Jr.
Yep. No, thank you for your comments. And I do want to mention as well, everything that is sent in writing to us, we do read, and it goes in all the packets. So absolutely, feel free to, if you haven't already emailed in your comments, please do so, and we'll make sure we get to read them. Thank you. All right, with that, we'll keep going.
My name is Bailey Tupai, and my question, I just have a few questions for the lady that was speaking earlier. So you're saying that when the ordinance goes into effect, this is where the homeless people, we can take the homeless people to in these designated areas? Is that what you're saying?
We don't normally do a Q&A for public comment, but if you're able to put them all out there, we can get an answer in writing to you.
Okay, I was just trying to clarify, if she could clarify what.
Attorney Fennell, if you're okay for that, yeah.
Sure. So,
Just wanna be fair.
just to be clear, the council hasn't adopted the ordinance yet, and they're still going to be talking about this, but those are the places that the ordinance prohibiting camping wouldn't be in effect when there's no shelter space available. So if there was someone who had no way to get into shelter and had nowhere else to go, that would be a place where they could go and they wouldn't have the risk of getting a citation or getting an arrest.
Okay, thank you. And then the other thing is the mayor clarified that the ordinance was brought together by the city council. I wanted to ask the city council, how did you guys come about this ordinance for the people down on MLK? How did you guys come down there? Did you guys come down there and feed the people? Did you ask them questions of the resources they needed? I don't know how you guys came about an ordinance. Can you explain to me? Because I'm not very smart of what an ordinance is.
I'll just give a quick response that we spent 5 study sessions discussing this with our city attorney's office and the administration.
And not one homeless person was there to express their dilemma as far as your ordinance that you made.
And we've actively been soliciting public comment both in person and by writing. So yes, we've heard from quite a number of folks, including those experiencing homelessness.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
guys' time.
Hi, my name's Connie Smith. I live on 6th and Broadway in Bremerton. I have terminal lung cancer and breathing is a luxury for me. I walk outside and the smell of drugs is ridiculous. There's so much, it's crazy over there. And you guys, I feel so bad for the police because their hands are tied. I shouldn't have to smell drugs all day and all night. And the fighting and the yelling and the screaming. They just moved in a dresser. They just put a mattress out there. They have a reclining chair. It's insanity. We have a lady who takes her clothes off and dances around nude. And then a guy who just pulled his pants down and just went to the bathroom in the road. Behind my car, they have a tent on the street. I couldn't even back out. It's insane. I feel bad and these guys should have a safe place. Well, what the hell about me? I have no safe place. It's insanity there. And if everybody is so worried about the homeless, then I'm ready to share. Please take them in your neighborhood, because I'm so done. I am done. All this is up to you guys. I mean, it's insanity. I need to die in peace. I need to breathe in peace. This is enough. Dying is sad and hard, but this is like hell over here. I'm not even in purgatory. I'm in living hell. You have to do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. My name's Dale Sperling. I live in Bainbridge Island, but I have significant multifamily workforce housing investments here in Bremerton, plus or minus 150 units, with more under construction and more in development. So I have an interest in this problem. And my sense is this problem has gotten worse over the last 2 years because of lack of enforcement. And enforcement is not going to solve the problem. You need more supply. Somehow you need to find a way to produce more product. Just doing enforcement is not going to solve this problem. It's metastasizing. It's gotten a lot worse over the last 2 years. And the reason it's gotten worse is, again, because it's been lack of enforcement. So I would commend the mayor for his suggested amendment to the what do you call it? Your ordinance. Thank you. It's a 3-syllable word. So I commend the mayor and I commend you on coming up with an ordinance to force enforcement. But the second thing is, when you have a problem in the city of Bremerton, whether it's a broken water main, whether it's potholes, you know who to go to solve that problem. Who is going to solve this problem for the city of Bremerton? Who is going to be responsible for finding a way to produce more product and get a shelter in place so that you can actually do the enforcement that you should do? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And just another request for folks to keep it down while folks are speaking so we can hear clearly. Thank you. All right, please go ahead.
Allison Loras, downtown business owner, downtown homeowner. I am concerned of several things about the removal of MLK Village and its outlying hamlets on Broadway and 8th. First off, is someone going to help people move? Every piece of derelict furniture that people have put out on the sidewalk in the last couple of years has wound up in use by people who, just like us, have a right to sit down sometimes. Is somebody going to transport their chairs to their new homes? I want to know that. I would also like to know if anyone's considered the possibility. I've heard from a lot of the people who live down there, their desire to get away from drug dealing and drug using. Can one of the larger camping areas be designated drug-free and enforced on request of the residents? And finally, I don't know what the finally was, but those are the two most important things to me. Oh, I know, the porta potties. There's a budget for porta potties. Are they going to be placed in the unenforced ordinance camping areas? We've got the budget. Please tell me that the toilets are going to go out there where the people are being sent to live. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Norma Pratt and I live on Broadway. Connie is absolutely right. And there's 2 women that were strung out of their minds running around naked. I've seen smash and grabs. I've seen people put needles in their arms. I've seen drug dealing down there. There's prostitution going on at the Burger King. I came home last night from taking care of my 90-year-old mother from her house, and here are a bunch of cop cars at Burger King busting somebody for drugs. We see cops there 2 to 3 times a day. I have 3 teenage children. There are other children in that neighborhood. It is not safe. the biohazard, or like when you do that thing at 11th, are you gonna have porta potties? Because people just go. It's like biohazard. I mean, it's not healthy for anybody. It's, you know, it's not fair for anybody. You know, if you're gonna have campgrounds, you need to have porta potties because it's not healthy for anybody. And you need to have like stuff for them to get off the drugs, or the problem's just going to persist. You need to have help there, and help for people's mental issues also. Because I mean, they fight, they run around naked, and nobody seems to care, you know, and around there, you know, and the citizens are going, you know, can't you do something? My kids don't need to see naked people running around. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Hello, my name is Donna Robinson. Hello, City Councilman and Mayor Wheeler. I'm concerned of the homeless encampment over on Martin Luther King Way. It destroyed the purpose of why we built the Marvin Williams Center. We are losing money and our children are not safe. We hold you all accountable for what is happening on Martin Luther King Way. This morning, I'm laying in my bed. I heard us on the national news, and everyone is listening and watching what's going on in Bremerton. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey again, guys. My name is Adrian Wright, live in District 2. I'm going to name off a couple out of East Bremerton: Legion Field, Madrona Trails, East Park Bremerton Ice Center, Batan Park, and also a couple locations such as the Boys and Girls Club out on East Bremerton, View Ridge Elementary Arts Academy, Kitsap Regional Library along Sylvan Way. All of those locations, from people that I've talked to in those neighborhoods, have encountered problems with homeless, and particularly people harassing young kids and ladies. I've taken a look this Saturday at the MLK facility and saw people post use on drugs. I've seen rats. I've seen unkept porta potties. And I believe that there's people can do better. Hopefully the city is listening. I know that there are resources for the poor, either state or county, and possibly even the city, but maybe there's an outreach that needs to happen. One of the biggest things that I've heard from people from East Bremerton District 2 has been the homeless encampment outside of the city limits behind the Fred Meyer. And also apartment people close to there have told me usually it's because of the Kitsap mental health and a drug problem, as well as a mental health crisis going on locally. A lot of the people not just want you to think about the homeless, but think about the working poor like myself. Why I'm dressed like an apartment maintenance person is because I am working poor, and I'm looking and talking with local people and trying to figure out what they need and what they want. Lastly, and don't take this as a threat, but 3 positions are open for re-election. And
I'm so sorry, that's time for 2 minutes, but point
right.
taken. All right, thank you for your comment.
We have someone that would like to speak in the back that has mobility issues. Do we have a portable mic?
Yes, I believe we do. Yes, thank
Okay,
you for
so
bringing that to
maybe
our
after
attention.
I go, we can let Miss Jackie back
That
there
sounds great.
go.
Thank you so
Okay.
much for mentioning that. Yes, please
I'm
go ahead.
Kelsey Stedman. I was born and raised in Bremerton. I currently work in Bremerton as a nurse. And I'm going to finish what Dawn Michelle wasn't able to because we reduced time, which is that if we invite you guys to come rock the block with us, if you take a moment to rock the block with us, you'd see firsthand the faces behind the statistics and understand the profound impacts of your choices, as well as the barriers that people encounter trying to access services. I asked you to consider the needs of the people who are experiencing homelessness and work towards creating a community where no one is left behind. there is strength in numbers. We are a solution-focused group of people, and we have seen a profound and positive difference in the lives of those who need it most. In the last month alone, we've gotten 14 people off the block. And the need continues, and this has been mostly volunteer run and funded by citizens. Those lives were changed. My main concerns with the current ordinance are outlined in a very lengthy letter that I wrote you guys. So I just wanted to highlight that there's a lot of attempts to expand available shelter for clarity, but I actually think we're moving away from available shelter in that way. Transitional housing is not immediately available. Even for night by night shelters, you have to go through coordinated entry. So, and that's tied to funding and grants that those places receive. So even if a shelter bed is open, that doesn't mean that someone can just show up at 10 o'clock on Friday night and get that bed. I think that we need to really understand and get clarity on available shelter being immediately available. Also not in there is who determines eligibility and disability. There's no definition of disability in there. And you guys mentioned in a study session that you purposely didn't include banned individuals. It should be up to the shelter to determine who is eligible for their services. So I suggested some things in writing, but those are the main points.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your comment. And yes, let's go to the back there. That's
Hi, my name's Jackie, and I happen to live on Martin Luther King right now. I did not ask to be homeless. My dog did not ask. None of us asked to be homeless. It's something that happened that shouldn't have happened. Yeah, I agree. There are people that have mental disabilities, some more than others, but we're human, you know? I was always under the impression that a homeless shelter or homeless camps were where they took care of each other and there was no fighting, nobody getting stabbed, nobody, getting shot, and nothing like that happened. And well, that's not what that is. But just because of that, it's making a lot of people stronger too. Oh, thank you. I just wanted to say that we never asked to be there and we need help. That's it.
Thank you so much. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
I am Floyd Usin, USSIN, a resident of Bremerton, also the pastor of Emmanuel Apostolic Church, housed in the Marvin Williams Center. I have a couple of concerns, and one of my concerns is that you do have a RCW that deals with trespassing that's not being enforced. We've called many times and have to wait 30, 40, even an hour before people are removed from the property. There are sex offenders that are right there in the location where we have our children. And I don't feel like my grandchildren are being protected. Damage to our properties. We can't even rent our space there in because of the homeless encampment. They all need some place to go. I agree with that. But those of us who are property owners also have a right to make a living and provide a service to our community. The thing I want to say is that we're losing tenants and revenue because of the housing. It's just homelessness. And let me say this here to the chairman. This is from your letter. You say this to us. You say communication and collaboration with your constituents is your top priority. I don't feel like I'm a priority. I don't feel like that, Mr. Cole. I don't feel like that. When I got to walk down, I can't even walk down the street because there's people all over the place. Something has to be done.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, City Council. I'm Matt Chapman. I'm the chairman of Emmanuel Apostolic Church Executive Board. And as you've heard from Pastor Houston, we are having great difficulty with safety of our children, renting our facilities as well. We are having contamination of our property. The property that the housing, the homeless camp is owned by the church there. There's drugs being done there. There's needles. There's people defecating on that property. Who's going to clean that up when we want to go build there? How are we supposed to build there when it is time for us to build a greater edifice there? We, along with our partners with New Life Community Development Agency, need your support in cleaning up that area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm David Hood. I work in the city. I live in the county, but I share a fence with you guys. So I'll begin with a question about transporting furniture. I do have a truck and trailer, and I am willing to help do that. But back to the okay, we'll talk about that later. Someone wants to find me. So of course, on the other hand, I'm on the fence about this whole deal. I think it's better than what we have. The question is I got some points about accountability. I am a property crime victim multiple times. I got two neighbors who had attempted car thefts, both by homeless people. One was successful. She no longer has the car. So as far as accountability goes, so the first point is I've been harassed by a city cop for having a car parked in the county. So, and the last council meeting I was at, which was a while ago, you guys were very excited about enforcing people who had too much stuff on their porch. So I am running out of time. So, are we going to hold these people accountable in these camps? Are we going to patrol these camps, and are we going to hold them to the same standard that I am held to? We know that housing is limited. We know, I mean, everybody knows that's a big problem. But with these housing camps, they were never heard. If you build it, they will come. So if we got these things, are they going to get full? And if they get full, what is going to happen at that point? What's going to be our next solution? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Angela Farron, and I currently reside here in Bremerton. I'm going to really try not to cry, but I want to tell my story. Good evening, council members and Mayor Weaver. My name is Angela, and I've served as a volunteer at Georgia's House and Kids Rescue Mission. I've been homeless in Pierce County and from programs that just move someone from one place to another without any hope or outcome. I'm sorry, without any hope or outreach of individuals helping me to find supportive housing for my kids and I. While I understand homelessness is a big concern for the city, as a voice for the homeless and from living in tents, cars, couch surfing, and staying in shelters here in Bremerton, I would rather be homeless. My concern was for the reason I refuse to go to shelters is because my concern for my children and myself and not having my kids taken. When I was here as homeless, I had to walk everywhere I went in order to get resources. Transportation to appointment, school, work, and any resources to help me wasn't even possible. Well, I see tents up and can relate to these people. Their concerns, as are mine, are people holding true to helping them keep their families and helping them find suitable housing due to prior convictions. Most homeless are criminals and sex offenders. Most homeless and murder charges in Oxford housing doesn't accept some of these crimes, and most communities don't want these individuals in their neighborhoods. I live in subsidized housing, which reminds me of the unsafe housing I was in while homeless, while not here for me. There are many abandoned buildings that can be used to help these people have something safe and monitored by the city or other shelters. Most people would rather, sorry, I said that before, but I just want to say, so we have Peninsula Community Health volunteers and mobile, and I advocated for the mobile service. Oh my Jesus. But why can't Peninsula, or why can't mental health, and we have Middleton and everything else. So there's other solutions. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Joey Hayes, Bremerton resident, and I'm one of the co-leaders of Kitsap Erase Coalition's Housing and Homelessness team. I've been coming to the city council meetings, I've been coming to the study sessions, and I think you know who I am. What happened? We were talking about some good stuff. You know, you were talking about making sure there's a statement in there that if someone's excluded from a specific shelter, even if it's because of a behavioral issue, that bed won't count as available to them. And there was so much talk about an authorized camping place, more like an outdoor shelter. And that's really where we should be focusing. Because if we pass this ordinance as it is, it's going to be a disaster. Don't have places for people to go. We don't have transportation for them. And if people are all the way out there, how are they going to get to all of the services that are in downtown Bremerton? And I really want to say to the residents, nobody wants there to be a homeless encampment on MLK Way. That I would not want that where my child lives either. What we want is to have some place for them to go, because these encampments have sprung up because there is not some place for them to go. We didn't have these in the past like this. So there's obviously something happening that is causing this, partially with the closing of the Salvation Army shelter. And we don't have an emergency overnight shelter. If you're homeless today, there's nowhere for you to go. And that's going to continue to create problems, and putting people on these little parcels that are uneven. And as my last statement, a lot of our homeless people are disabled and elderly and will not be able to access those places.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Hi, my name is Molly. I'm the other co-leader of Kitsap Erase Coalition's Housing and Homelessness team. Like my sister was saying, you had so many good suggestions for the ordinance that weren't included. You know, you had been talking about the pallet shelters even, which was such a good idea. And some of these places you suggested, you know, disabled people aren't going to be able to get into these places. They're some of them are hills, there's trees. You know, a lot of our homeless people that are disabled, they're elderly. If you've ever been camping recreationally, you ever tried to pitch a tent on an incline? It doesn't go well. I just want you to, and are you going to provide transportation for people back to their services? Because a lot of these places are very far away from people's services. And also if they're back in the woods, it's going to be hard for those of us who serve them, for us to get to them, to be able to help them if they're back in the woods. Right now, people have rock blocks set up, you know, they set up a table, they bring food. It's not going to be something that's going to be easy to set up in the middle of a wooded area. When you talk about decentralizing things like this, I just hope you'll think a little bit more about some of the issues faced by people with disabilities and the elderly when you're thinking about you're going to put in this in your further study sessions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Robert Carries on Bonita Avenue. Something was said earlier by the attorney. So I have my house, sidewalk, medium, and street. That medium, if a homeless person came that medium and put a tent on there, there's nothing I can do about that. Is that true, what I'm hearing?
The Attorney General, can you just clarify one more time the provision?
Yeah,
in
so
the
you're
draft
saying that
ordinance?
my house, I know the sidewalk is city property. There's the medium. I have a 10-foot medium and then the street. So if somebody came up there on my medium and put a tent there, they can stay there? Because supposedly that's city property?
No, let's clarify
Okay,
this because
yeah,
I don't believe that's correct. I don't want to make sure we have a
Because
good
if you're
factual
talking about that,
understanding.
the medium in front of the Starbucks and that's also property, sidewalk, medium, street, and they're allowed to be there. So why, and so you're telling that basically they can be allowed to buy medium in front of my house?
So Attorney Fennell, if I can clarify, the current draft ordinance in our packet has a clause that says camping is prohibited at all times within public places with the uses defined in this subsection. And to the gentleman's question, a paragraph here says public right of way, including but not limited to streets, sidewalks, and the space between streets and sidewalks. So I believe what you're describing would be off limits at all times, regardless of shelter space.
Okay, right. And regarding the health department, I went on a trip here a while back to my mom's vacation. We had somebody coming right back here. We had a friend of ours drive by and say, hey, your gate's open. Come back, got the gate, everything was fine. Couple weeks ago, somebody's trying to come right back here again and steal our scooter. They couldn't get it out because it was locked up. So now I have to go and buy locks. Now I'm gonna have to go and buy security cameras. I'm gonna have to pay $150 a month to have a security system on my property. All the monitoring system. This is getting out of hand. It's only been the last 3 or 4 months since this homeless becoming from the Starbucks. I don't even need it. It's slowly crunching up. They just walk around the area like zombies and everything. And we're the residents and the owners of the properties are the ones that are being affected by it. It's costing us money. It's costing us our time. I can't even go out on vacation anymore. I'm afraid to leave my house for more than a day because something's going to happen. I take care of my mom right now. My husband stays in our house for that reason alone. We are afraid that somebody can get into our house, sit in our front porch, sit in my house, on my couch, and become a squatter. Then I'm the one who has to be a lawyer. I'm the one who has to get the police involved. I'm the one who's the victim. They can squat their little butts there for as long as they want to, because that's what the law says. It's ridiculous. Gotta do something about this. It's just horrible.
Thank you for your comments.
Good afternoon or evening or whatever. I'm Josh Ellsworth. I'm actually down there. I'm home. Thanks everybody for all the work you guys are doing here. And you know, this is a new, right? Nobody knows what to do. Nobody knows exactly what to say or how to feel or what. And yeah, that is the rule. So you just can't have your stuff on somebody's property and you can't be impeding the sidewalk or the street. And you can stay in the planter strip there, city property, whatever. Anyway, but they can't even do that much usually than us. They're so unorganized. Let me ask you this question. What do we do when there's somebody that's screaming and complaining every night and fighting their spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend, and they do it consistently every night? What do we do about it? How do we kick them off the block? You know what I mean? How do we get them out of there when the cops are called by neighbors and stuff and they don't do anything about it? You know what I mean? We don't want them there either. Like they're making everybody look bad. But like off top, it's kind of inhumane to even have the freaking campment there anyway, because it's on the concrete. There is no planter strip. It's driveway and sidewalk and broken sidewalk. It's like super not comfortable. So older gentleman that I was with earlier, he asked me to bring up that issue. And then oh God, just I'm drawn. No, it's so a lot of people are down there, in fact, I'm gonna blow your minds right now, but I wouldn't rather be anywhere else on the world right now. Like I'm here because I want to be 100%. Don't get it twisted that I'm there because I don't want to be there. I'm there because there's no rent. I've been in Seattle, I've been in the shelters and they suck. The Salvation Army is awesome here. They serve awesome food. I got stuck out here because my friend hit a deer when he was on his way to pick me up. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stay here. It's been really nice and you guys have a really cool community. But the cops are coming through every night and putting people in jail. Every night they're coming in and enforce. the no, you and Brent in the open policy.
So sorry to stop you there, but
People are getting charged.
yeah, thank you so much for your comments.
Hi. I have been a property owner and fully employed in Kitsap County for about 15 years. And I believe that there can be a compromise between the tax-paying public and people who are helpless and they have no choices. I think people who are on the street, they have no choices left, especially if they're addicted or mentally ill, they're being controlled by the addiction. Whereas we have choices, we can decide what to do. I believe that our whole society we're all in this together. And I agree with the designated camping areas. I think it's a good step in the right direction. It's not the final solution, but it's a good step in the right direction so that there can be organization and centralization. I also do agree with multiple encampments. Mainly so that people who are more vulnerable, like women and so forth, can find a safer encampment. And I just wanted to put my support for the designated camping areas. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Amy Randall, and this is just, I don't live here. I do attend Emmanuel. I am
And I'm so sorry, ma'am. Do you mind speaking a little closer to the mic and we'll reset your
Sorry.
timer? It's okay. They're tricky.
My name is Mamie Randall, and this is really my community as well. I am a member of Emmanuel. I'm also one of the founding people that helped to get New Life Community Development Agencies started. And I just really want to speak from just my experience in the loss of the ability to see my bishop and my pastor's dream and legacy move forward. I remember walking around the property and really, we ran so many free programs for children. And I was there and I have the pictures and I have 6 children. And all of my kids and family were still at the church serving. But I can't plan anything else anymore. We can't take the kids to outside. This is the property that we walked around. I was pregnant with my 3rd. I have 6. And when we walked around that property, and we can't do anything because not only are there needles, and I honor and I wish that I had a solution, but not only is there a needle problem, we're dealing with fentanyl. Fentanyl looks like candy. The Opal Robertson, the thing that we made, the fountain, we had to turn that off because that's used for shower and everything else. The history that is just gone. I can't, now my children, one of them sitting over there, they can't carry on that same type of thing. It is just destroyed that part of the community. And it's really funny. I just want to, if you look nationally, everywhere that the homeless stay, the biggest part of them stay on Martin Luther King Way.
Thank you.
Nationally.
Thank you for your comments. So sorry to stop you there.
Hi, I'm Karna Peck. I live down on Pacific. I was a homeless advocate for 5 years for Mason County. And I just want you to know the solution to homelessness is housing. It really is. The shelters don't work. All that other stuff is just very temporary. So we talked to Habitat for Humanities, and they were willing to build housing for us, little tiny houses for people. The problem that we have in our society is zoning and is the all the laws that stop us from building those little tiny houses. And I personally think if you're gonna really solve the homeless problem, you really need to think more about housing. Now, I want you to know England has no homeless because it's illegal. They have countries all around the world that have no homeless because it's illegal. They create the housing for them. I think maybe you should think that direction.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, I'm Patty Morris. I'm a part of the Kitsappa race and a homeowner here in Bremerton and a retired social worker. I think we had some good ideas in the former meetings, but I think this solution is going to lead to greater fragmentation. I think what's happened is the problem has been spread out, and so the homeless people are being sent to different parts of the community, which isn't good for the homeless population and isn't good for the community either. So our homeless neighbors just deserve a safe place to live, not to live out in the street on cracked sidewalks in a field with no shade, which I know there's some of those properties seem to be absent of. So we're all interconnected, and I'd like to see a solution that benefits everybody and that's a little bit more progressive than this. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wasn't gonna come up, but since everybody else is talking, I'm gonna get my 2 cents in. I've got a perspective, and my son's with me today, and also our other roommate. We're right on ML King, right next to where the Navy Yard personnel park, and looking out, of course, the last few days, we have 2 nice new shiny porta potties. There's a problem like this. We know this all over the country. Thing I think to remember, and I will take my hat off to everybody here, just watching people that are sitting here, the council members, you are listening and paying attention. There's no good answer to a lot of this. Yeah, so many things in life, there's just answers that aren't as bad as others. I'll say this though, my father, who was a project engineer in charge of building plants for Ford Motor Company, took me to a plant once that was built in 26 days from a site where there was nothing and turned out trucks to win World War II. And I think that maybe these are, the thing that the council has to remember, of course, the people that own houses and rent the houses and the people that live in those houses, those of course are the taxpayers. And the other thing that is beyond me, having owned a sizable manufacturing company, is I read in the paper how building a tiny home costs $400,000. This is crazy. It's crazy. For $50,000 to $60,000, you can build a place for 2 people or more quite easily. So I'll solve all your problems. If you want to make me homeless czar of Bremerton for $1 a year with unlimited power, we'll get it fixed. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for your comments. Maybe budget season to consider. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Dee and I live in the downtown Bremerton area. And I look at the spots that are in green, whereas when there's overflow, when there's no beds, these are where these people are gonna go. Who's gonna put the porta potties up for them? Who's gonna clean the porta potties for them? Who's gonna come out and tip them back up right after they have been tipped over because of whatever foolishness happens to be going on that day? I also looked at the green areas, and there's a lot of these in the downtown area. And people coming to our city, our home, someplace we're supposed to be able to be proud of, they're going to see these homeless encampments. They're going to think they're back in Seattle. I left Seattle for a reason years ago, and now I'm right back in it. And I don't see a whole lot of relief coming from you guys. Please help us.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. My name is Ed Cunningham. I am its president. First, let me say that I work in Seattle. I'm a civil service employee for the past 30 years, the federal government. I'm saddened to say that the city of Bremerton is turning into downtown Seattle 3rd and Pike area, which is very dangerous. I have some statements. My house property tax has increased for the past 3 years. For what? What am I paying for? My property tax keeps going up and up, and I'm paying more and more. Why am I paying these taxes? My children cannot walk freely. We have to watch over them constantly. We were at a birthday party a few weeks ago at Evergreen Park. A young woman at the playground, she was obviously high and on drugs. She was half naked and throwing things around and then vomited on the slides. I told my children, let's go. So why have you allowed our city to be overrun by drug users or individuals that are homeless that are in issues with drugs? This is a big question of mine. Like the gentleman that came up here earlier who said that he stopped here and he liked it. And so he doesn't go anywhere because he has all this social network and these social services. So the question I have is, why do you make it such an enticing environment to allow individuals to say, this is the place I want to stay and I want to be homeless at? Whereas I say, this is where I want to be because I want to raise a family. I like the small town environment. I like downtown Veterans Holiday Parade we have. I like the environment. I do like the idea of these free zones. But why don't we condense the area for everybody to be in one zone, the 40-acre lot, divide that into subsections for women, families, drug user zone, whatever it may be. But remember that whatever area you give them will be contaminated with needles and other paraphernalia.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening and blessings to the mayor and also to our distinguished council members. Much has been said here today and much still need to be done. You have heard today from the voters and the taxpayers of this city, and they all have the same concern. Now, I have been on the Marvin Williams Center board ever since day one. And this type of issue we have never been confronted with in the past. And I do know that in a short term, it needs to be taken care of now, these homeless. Otherwise, it's going to become a long term, and we're going to become one of the larger cities' problems that's already exists in these larger cities. Also, to the Marvin Williams Center, you know, we emphasize is very what's the word I want to use here, empathetic for the homeless, but unfortunately at this time we're not fortunate enough to be able to help them in their type of situation. But I do know that MLK, Martin Luther King Jr. Way, is certainly an eyesore, and it's not environmentally safe for our children. And Marvin Williams Center, that building was put there for the community, for the children, your friend children. And definitely, we want to keep it a safe environment. Now, we all know the totality of homelessness and encampment. We all know exactly what happens in those areas. And there's a lot of cleanup that's going to need to be done as well. If this was to happen on your block, how would you feel? What would you do? What would you do? You'll be in front of the city council just as we are today. Now, Marvin Williams Center, we're trying to keep that.
So sorry that I have to stop you there 2 minutes, but yeah.
Okay.
Just to be fair to
Marvin Williams
everybody.
Center, once again, it's for your kids and everyone else. And here's one thing.
Thank you for your comments. I am so sorry.
Oh, I'm done?
I just have to
My
be
time
fair
up.
to everybody.
I didn't hear the bell.
Give everyone the exact same amount of
Okay,
time.
thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Good evening, City Council. Robert Parker again. You've heard about all the needles, you've heard about all the feces, and you've heard all about this stuff. And, we dealt with this a while back. Councilman Younger can remember me coming here and bringing a full bottle of drug needles and setting them right up here and leaving them there. And they were really, really offended at that time, told me to come get my needles and said, no, those are your taxpayer needles. And then we started addressing that problem. And we did it with the health district. These people shouldn't have filthy needles out on their streets. You should get right back on the health district. We shouldn't have sanitation problems down there. You should be on the health district. That's what they're paid for, to deal with that issue. It's not your issue, it's the health districts. But I'll also challenge you to come to the plate because I haven't seen it. When Patty Linton was mayor, she made some phone calls to get me on the 110th Mental Health and Substance Abuse Advisory. I spent 5.5 years on there. Took packages from all over the place and we funded them. You have a need here and I have not seen a package from the city of Bremerton. Where you been? It's a $12 million fund. Your citizens are paying part of their sales tax towards it and you're not using it. How do you think you got the de-escalation for your cops in Bremerton? That was the 110th fund. There are other things that were done. You can do this with that. You can also get those sheds that I helped pay for that are sitting in church parking lots all over South Kitsap. There's 7, 8, 9 of them. They were $1,400 a whack. It's going to get cold here in 2 months and people are going to start freezing. Those have been down there for 6 or 7 years. Call Homes for All. Call your county commissioners and say, hey, we'd like to put those in use on some of our property. They can lock them up and they're warm. That's coming to the plate. Not this little tent thing when it's going to be 30 degrees. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
I am Joe Walter. I want to speak to the issue of a housing czar. I don't know about the gentleman who offered himself, but I think, and I've said it before, that we really need someone besides politicians to go to. No disrespect to you politicians. I recognize you're facing an impossible task, and I really think you're working hard on it, and I do appreciate it. But we need a staff person, because when are you going to work on it again? 2 weeks from now? A week from now? And then 2 weeks after that? It's not enough for the complexity of these issues. We need more resources, straightforwardly more resources down in the neighborhood where people are living on the street. It is not sustainable for people with full-time jobs like Kimmy, Jocelyn, Kelsey, who else? Don Michelle, to be putting in hours every day after working a full-time job. It's wonderful that we hear 14 people were moved from the street and into treatment. I think I heard that. But, we need professional services that are paid people who do that work. And nobody said anything about the mayor's proposal about instant misdemeanor. Y'all got to get letters sent with what you think about that, so that the council can get your thoughts on the mayor's idea of instant misdemeanor. Maybe there'll be some kind of compromise that folks, after they get their first citation, then we send, I don't know, navigator, social worker, conflict resolution, somebody down there to help them understand what they're facing, but not instant. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, my name is Amanda Scott Thomas, a concerned community member, someone who grew up in Bremerton. I'm a Bremerton High grad, raised kids in this community, and I still attend church here in the directly impacted area. So homelessness, we know, is unfortunately a complex endemic. Continued work with local and state government, nonprofit, businesses and community together have to come together to solve the systemic problem, but it's going to take time. We know that. Bishop Robertson was a driving force behind fundraising the construction of the $7.2 million Marvin Williams Center, and it's an important recreational gathering place for the entire community. Our beloved bishop is remembered as a venerated Kitsap African-American leader who brought people together, serving this community for 40 years. He was also fearless and asked hard questions and publicly addressed controversial issues in the city publicly. The city of Bremerton's decision to basically zone and direct unhoused to Emmanuel Apostolic Church property, formerly the Teen Center on MLK, and the Marvin Williams Center, to me feels like racism. To disproportionately impact underserved communities of color, children, youth, and youth-serving organizations led by people of color, youth-serving organization and the lower-income community, the Marvin Williams Center, and the Emmanuel Apostolic Church is an insult to all of his hard work, his memory, and his legacy. What is the council going to do about this? Specifically, elected official Coughlin, who represents District Number 3. And finally, yes, compassion always. But in a society, country, and city where Black Lives Matter is still debatable, no one here and no one here can lecture me on compassion. You need to do something.
Thank you for your comments.
Well, CJ Jones, ditto to that young lady's speech. Also, Councilman, Mayor, I believe that it's time out for lip service and give service to us, your citizens that are paying taxes. I serve on the board of the Marvin Williams Center, and I go to Emmanuel Apostolic Church. At the OR Teen Center, every downspout on the building is now demolished. We just got a bill from Dog Glass for $400+ to replace a window that was broken by the unhoused neighbors. They're human beings. There happen to be human beings that are impaired by drugs, by other mental illnesses. So you have to change your lens when you sit in your chamber and you talk about solutions for this pandemic. In the Marvin Williams and Oprah Teen Center, Martin Luther King Way. The residents there, I don't know if I could live on Martin Luther King Street because of the ongoing atrocities that are happening. The constant trespassing on our properties. We put locks on our electrical outlets to conserve the power, and they're ripped off. I've gone outside of our doors and confronted individuals that were there plugging in cell phones and tablets and asked, why are you plugging into our power? You're stealing our electricity. I'm just trying to get this last text in. Well, I said, will you go over across the street to that house and plug into their power? No. Well, why are you plugging into ours? You're ripping off the lock boxes that we put on so we could preserve the power and reduce our bill. Well, they have no answers because they're not thinking. It's time to make action and
Thank
not
you.
lip service.
Thank you for your comments.
Roy Runyon, Bremerton. Boy, some real words of wisdom. Any of you who have raised children to be responsible human beings? I have. Unfortunately, this child who my wife and I adopted committed suicide through drug use here in the city of Bremerton. Now, he graduated from high school. He joined the Navy. He served his enlistment, got out with an honorable discharge, had the world by the tail. And he started abusing drugs. He got a hold of something synthetic and just screwed them all up. So I have empathy. I know what happens. But just like children, we need to provide structure and limits. You know, that's tough love. To be too permissive, we see what happens. There's been a lack of enforcement of our laws. You guys are struggling with this, and well, you should, because government partly created the problem. My concerns are over the violation of the 14th Amendment to the US Constitution, which you've all sworn to uphold and defend. People that live in those areas and those houses who don't feel safe in their neighborhoods, they're not being protected. They're not being afforded the equal protection of the laws. That's your responsibility. It's Greg's responsibility. He's failing. You're failing. I've been concerned over the Americans with Disabilities Act. People cannot use that sidewalk because it's just not passable. It's dangerous for them to use that. I'm concerned over, we've heard criminal activity being committed against property, against businesses, against individuals. So I have a list of comprehensive suggestions. First of all, the Biden administration needs to secure our borders, stop the fentanyl from coming into the country. Do not provide shelter. That's not our business. Require the county and state governments to carry out their responsibilities. Make sure the 1/10 of 1% mental health and substance abuse funding goes to what it was intended and not be diverted by some of these commissioners who want to do that. You know, use your contacts and your relationships.
Thank you for your comments.
Dan Heron, Bremerton resident, 6th District. Looks like the city is going to try to get shelters for the homeless that don't currently exist. I have 7 points. I don't know if I get to them all. Mayor said open communication, give people plenty of notice if you have to relocate them. Excellent. That's my first point. Transportation. Are we going to provide transportation to the people to these new shelters? If they are at a new shelter and they're far away from the city, are we going to provide transportation with volunteers? You know, it doesn't have to be just the city or Kitsap Transit. Is there going to be water available for these people? That's vital. Toilets, porta potties, waste disposal, security. Is there some sort of security they can have? And then I trust there's going to still be continued outreach, like the 14 people who got out of homelessness. I trust that we're going to work with our partners to keep outreach to help people escape homelessness. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I'm Richard Buckholz. I've been a Bremerton resident over 20 years. I want to remind us all, any one of us can be homeless at any time. All it takes is one bad problem in your life. And I wanted to remind everybody, I see a lot of food being wasted. Please consider, go to Salvation Army, get a truck, the health department. These people need to eat too, wherever you house them. They need, they need places to get clean, How can you get off the street if you can't get a job? Please consider all that while you make your decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, sir, I think you've already spoken on this topic.
I've seen several people come up to the mic, more than one. More than one.
No, we had a public recognition and then public
I
comment.
know, I was
So
here
it's only
for the
one
public
per.
recognition.
Yeah, it's only one spoken time.
I've seen several people speak to the issues.
Well, I didn't catch it. I'm so sorry, but no, it's only once per person.
Okay, so
Someone can
when
point
you
it
go
out.
back and look at your tape, you'll see that several people came back again, but you're refusing me.
Yeah.
I want to speak to the ordinance.
Well, sir, yeah. I don't believe it in a second, but just once per topic. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Margaret Jones, and I wasn't gonna speak because I'm not feeling that great, but however, my question in the community, I'm also a member of Emmanuel Apostolic Church with Purpose and Vision. And I want to say, have you ever thought about all these people that got monies, like the housing, KCR? There's another gentleman got, I think, a lot of money to open up to help the homeless. Have you guys ever came together with those people and mainstream their jobs? Because some of them got all that money and they're just sitting there going to trainings and using that money for their own personal uses. And I've been asking this question, what are they doing with the buildings that they got this government money from? So think about that. Get those people that's supposed to be helping you out in the community health department. Find out what are they doing on their jobs every day. Are they taking lunch breaks going on more than an hour or 30 minutes? Are they really using the money to help these people? And that's where the homeless need to go, right on their property. So when they come to work, they'll be ready to work. I'm saying I know people don't always do their jobs. I work at a school. I know people on their cell phones wasting time. So maybe you need to bring them together, mainstream, and say, you got a grant. When that building closed downtown Bremerton, I helped the homeless. When that building went away, somebody got that funding. Who got the funding? And why those people are not going to that particular place, or what are they doing? So think about that. Think about that.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Taisha. I'm a 19-year-old. I've been raised in Bremerton all my life. I don't live here right now, but on MLK Way, I used to be in drill team and I was the captain, and we used to march up and down the street and we practiced, and it's just dangerous. Now I do go to Emmanuel Apostolic Church, and even as just walking to 7-Eleven, I'm not allowed to unless I have a man coming with me. I go down there, you get catcalled, you see the needles, you see the poop, and I understand like people need help homelessness. And I heard someone make a comment saying, do we help homeless children? We do. We do help homeless children. And it's just like, even when we try to help them, it's not safe for them either. They shouldn't be living on the streets around people with the needles. And for me, it's just kind of sad. Like, I go to college now. I can't even bring my friends back here because if they come here, they're going to see all of this. I'm going to be like, this is where you stay? This is not how I used to stay. We used to have fun. I did Zumba. I do work at the church. I work in the children's ministry at my church. We can't even take the kids outside anymore. I work with the little kids, the 1 to 2-year-olds. They like to look at the birds. They like to look at the grass, but we can't take them out there because what if they step on a needle? What if they get hurt? So I just think that we should try our hardest. And even just like sitting here listening, you guys are just moving them to another section of the town. That's not going to change what's happening. So I just think like we should try harder, even with the community.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, I'm Deborah Moore Jackson with Surviving Change and Hope 360. Everybody here knows in numbers is power. If you are not satisfied with the powers that be, it is time for change and replacement. This outcome should tell you who you want to represent you. And it's time for change. If you're only getting a selective hearing, it's time for change. If you're not saying what you want and things aren't getting done and you're just being pushed aside or told many different stories, it's time for change. So look, think about that. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay.
And the clock takes away time. I've been watching it the whole time. It skips many a time.
Okay. I have another
Yes.
timer I use here. I think it evens out in the end.
So I'm Mike Simpson. I live in District 6. My family has lived in this city for 4 generations. And this is the worst that it's ever been. Yeah, from our neighbors that are telling us, it sounds like you're trying to drive a black church out of this city. Yeah, that's appalling. But we need to do this with love. We need to love our neighbors and love the population that is there. But without love, or with love, we have to have accountability, because when there's not accountability, we enable bad behavior. We enable people to live on the streets. And that is uncompassionate and unconscionable. Now, the mayor talked about having a shelter. Well, we've got our conference center that goes unfulfilled. You know, almost every single day, we're clamoring for people to come in and occupy that place to pay us. And we've got $12 million for 0.1% that could pay for some of that. So maybe we ought to think about that. These are all things that should be added into this ordinance. And I'm glad that the city council is taking the time to be very considerate about this, but November comes soon.
All right. Thank you for your comments. And just a reminder, it's kind of bordered on it, but no discussion of elections and pros and cons. So sorry to enforce that. All right, please go
Not
ahead.
at all. Mary Lou Long, 50-year resident of Bremerton. I agree with so many of the comments that have been made here tonight. The council and the mayor are between a rock and a hard place. You don't know which way to go. You have an ordinance on the books that says no camping in the city. Now you want to amend it and kind of screw it over. It's not going to work. And making these little tiny campsites to me, is not really going to be the solution. It's not even a Band-Aid. It's more trouble. I really think you guys have to put your thinking caps on and go look for some more solutions and some shelter money that is available somewhere. There's money for other things. Think you can find some shelter money somewhere and get some places for these people to be put. But besides that, we have mental health issues. We have violence on the streets where these people are living. We have theft in the neighborhoods that these people are living in. We have children that are now being kept indoors and suffering from not being able to be free. And I think we need to be, as one person mentioned, we need to be parents to these people that are incapable of making good decisions for themselves. They're mentally ill. And if they are walking around naked in the neighborhood or shooting up drugs, they need to go to jail, period. And clean them up. And if there are people that are civil, not antisocial, but down and out, let's try to find them a place where they're safe, if they have children especially. It's impossible for me to believe that Bremerton has tried to do something, but it's not doing anything. And we're following the same patterns that the big cities are having with catering to people that are antisocial.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, my name is Gloria Crane. I'm a Latina and I go to Emmanuel Apostolic Church at the Marvin Williams Center. I'm saddened by how it's looking on Martin Luther King Way. I've invited a lot of Latinos to come to the center when they were giving the shots. I invited a lot of them to come there. And a lot of them can bring so much business to Bremerton, to the town of Bremerton. Quinceaneras for, 15th birthday are very popular in the Latin community. And they don't even want to rent anything at the Marvin Williams Center because of the homeless that's there. I was shocked because I go to Kitsap Bank, that's where I bank. And I realized that it was on Martin Luther King where they were having a lot of the homeless. But the last time I went to Kitsap Bank, and then I went out, I don't know the name of that street that goes right out of Kitsap Bank. I was in total shock when I saw all the homeless there. And I'm thinking, my God, I don't go to Portland, Oregon because of the homeless. We went there one time as a church and I was devastated to see how they were taking over in beautiful downtown by the train station. And I'm seeing the same thing that was going on in Portland is happening in my beautiful Kitsap County. And it's like, somebody has to do something to our beautiful city. How are you going to bring people to spend money there? The Latinos that have all these, we celebrate everything and we would be spending money everywhere in Bremerton. But if you have homeless living everywhere and there's needles everywhere, I realize all homeless people are not drug addicts. I know that. But since the drug addicts have come into the city, it's gotten worse. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, let's see if we have anyone online. I'm guessing there are some hands. Yes, let's start with Victoria Hilt. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to try to be quick because we only have 2 minutes each, and I really wanted to be there in person, but it just didn't work out. I'm going to say some things that might be unpopular with some people in the room, and I accept that, and I am open to dialogue when you see me on the street to talk about this more, because I believe that not a single one of us has the ultimate answer. I believe we will only achieve the answer by working together. This is a community problem and requires a community solution. In order to do this, it does require us to stop separating ourselves from others. We cannot other people. I'm hearing a lot of you did this, you did this, it's on you, it's your responsibility. I hear a lot of what they're doing, what they did to my neighborhood, and these are all divisive terms. I hear that people are hurt, people have been wronged, and that is completely valid. I guarantee you that the people that are living on the street have been hurt and they have been wronged. Hurt people will hurt people. At some point, we as a strong community have to decide together that we will stop the cycle of hurt and move forward. I hear a lot of this is what I want, and I completely understand them. As a matter of fact, I'm coming in here saying I want us all to work together to find this solution. So City Council, the mayor, everybody in the room, what a wonderful opportunity to say, hey, let's actually think of a solution that involves all of us to get up and be there. Now, again, I know I'm not there in person, but I am here. And what I can say is that we all have a part to play in finding the solution to this problem. And it is not moving it to another neighborhood, because that neighborhood is just going to say, not in my neighborhood, put it in yours. And that continues the cycle of hurt. It is not productive, and I know we can do better.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we'll go to Shane.
Hey, I was born and raised Bremerton. I know you guys got that hospital in Bremerton. Maybe that's an idea that you can use that to shelter homeless. I think these green areas probably not the best idea, especially for people coming to the city. It just makes it even worse. So just my 2 cents. So that's it.
Thank you so much for your comments. Next up, we'll go to Kimmy.
Hi, my name is Kimmy Siebens. I'm a Bremerton resident, a registered nurse of 17 years, a founding member of the BHCC, Their Voice, and Rock the Block. First of all, it sounds like we all have a common goal of making our community a better place for all of us, which is totally awesome. I care for my housed and my unhoused neighbors alike, and the Marvin Williams Center as well. I've been trying to help y'all every day I have off as a full-time trauma ICU RN, but none of you have ever come out to help me. There are solutions, and Rock the Block is showing just that. You can follow us on Facebook. If you have any problems, give me a call, 971-236-1877, and we can help mitigate those issues. Remember, we have a severe lack of affordable housing, mental health care, and substance abuse care in the entire country. People can die of withdrawal. I call medical detox centers daily, and there aren't enough beds for the demand. They don't exist. We need a safe place to go until more help is available. And also, I just want to comment on the unkept porta potties. And I have to disagree with that, but that's probably because I'm the one who cleans them. And I also provide sharps containers, which are never full because sadly, people are smoking their drugs nowadays. It's not like the old days where there was a lot of needles on the ground. My team, Rock the Block, pays $200 a month rent for the parking spot that the 2 porta potties are sitting on. And we pay a minimum of $600 a month for managing them. The city is not providing that. We are. So you're all welcome. I don't like to see poop and pee on the sidewalk either, and neither do the people who live outside. It's totally dehumanizing to not have a restroom. And so we have had to provide that. And if you ever see a dirty porta potty, please let me know and I will promptly get down there and clean it out. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Next up, Christy Lyson.
Good evening, Council. I first want to commend you for postponing the vote on this issue. I commend your recognition that there's more work to do on revising this ordinance and listen to folks about this issue. I want to say that in order to make equitable, informed decisions and laws, you have to speak to everybody, including those most impacted by the law you're proposing to set. And So I, again, am urging you all, and maybe this could be the location of your next study session on this issue, to go down, and the Rock the Block folks will accompany you. They will help you facilitate conversations with the people that are down on Marvin Williams, or excuse me, not Marvin Williams, MLK and now Broadway, to talk to them about their experiences and what their needs are. You also can talk to the Rock the Block folks who are the experts in serving these folks and know explicitly what they need and what's going on. The mayor's amendment or proposed amendment to the ordinance, it's deplorable, and we can do better. When the people that you have heard from are the people that are privileged enough and have the wherewithal to gather themselves and get to City Hall or have online access like I do, and are not, or can communicate themselves clearly to you. That is not the citizenry of Bremerton. There's so much more, and you're only accessing the voices that come to you. You need to come to the block to hear the voices of the people in need that you're going to be impacting. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next up, we'll go to Mara and Cameron.
Good evening again, Council and Mayor. For the sake of redundancy, I'm gonna go a different way. You heard from Pastor Houston and those from the Marvin Williams Center, residents on Broadway, and the gentleman who spoke about the other encampments throughout Bremerton. This issue has exploded. In the Black community, we would call that benign neglect. And it has slowly crept up and crept up and crept up. And it used to be isolated to ML King, and now you see it all over Broadway. Really take a look down there. But we need to understand the issues: homelessness, addiction, healthcare, mental health, employment, livable wages, rental history, ability to pay, the time it takes to stabilize, individuals with disabilities, those who cannot hold a steady job, and the elderly. Those are just 10 reasons. But we have COVID, those who have lost a breadwinner, those who have lost their job, inflation, unaffordable housing, evictions, loss of business, loss of homes due to health. Again, this is going to continue to grow. We have to look at what is the long-term solution. Wherever this is designated for folks to move, those will become the new Marvin Williams. Those will become the new Broadway. Those will become the new, and we see it everywhere. I have some radical ideas on what we can do, but that's going to take some political will, and it's definitely going to take money. I think we have an opportunity to be leaders nationally in this issue. And if we can solve the issue, then that can be a boon for Bremerton, as we are the subject matter experts and consult with other cities and states to solve this. But where are the registered sex offenders going to go? Those that have the mental health that negates access to shelters, those that have the physical disabilities that the shelters won't take. Where will the health elderly go? I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. See if we have anyone else online. Not seeing any. No one else in the room hasn't spoke already. All right. With that, we will close public comment with a very large thank you to every single person who spoke up today and who was written into council. A giant thank you to all you all. And we'll finish up the meeting with council reports. Council reports are an opportunity for council members to
Don't leave.
provide an update on any issue and hear from us on what's going on in each of our districts. So with that, we'll go ahead and start the first council meeting of the month with Council Vice President Jennifer Chamberlain for District 1.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you, President Coughlin. I saw y'all leave, and I know it's been a long night for us too. I've got to go to the bathroom so bad. I'm not even gonna lie. But I am super glad that you're still here. First of all, I wanted to acknowledge some folks in their comments. Amanda Scott Thomas, yes, this feels like racism. I want to acknowledge this is institutional racism at work. I've been on a lot of MLK ways, and it's a problem. You know, this is class warfare too. And so this is we're in a system that's pitting each other against each other. So we're talking about poor people against Black people here, and this is not a new thing that larger institutions have done to us. So I just want to acknowledge that. And you should also run for an office. I would vote for you. I would follow you anywhere. Okay, Martha Jones says, where are the people with all the money? We need to streamline. Kitsap Community Resources just did this beautiful thing, you know, with the mayor and all this like looping in the resources to get housing in District 2. It was a beautiful thing. And we need to have more of that. We need to have more people with all the money who are working together and not siloed in their institutions. Mr. Jones, he's gone. He can look at my notes. There weren't people that duplicated their public responses, I promise you. We pay attention to that because we want to go too. I used to live on that same block where Marvin Williams building is. One of the houses that got torn down, I lived there. I know that neighborhood well. It has never been a great neighborhood. That's a place where there's an unsolved murder right up the road. There's on my birthday, actually, that happened. It's never been a good place. And I did have young children there when I lived there. I would love to see the purpose of the Marvin Williams building to come to fruition, which was to make that block better, to bring goodness to that block and to change it. So I just want to acknowledge that. How much time do I have left, President Coughlin?
3 minutes.
3 minutes? Woo! That's a long time. So I wanted to just kind of share a little bit. I mean, I want to also acknowledge the Rock the Block people. And I've been down there on, yes, thank you, Rock the Block people, for all the work they're doing day in, day out. Dawn Michelle talked about me earlier. She has a nonprofit. She's in a nonprofit where they give away free socks. So if you want free socks for homeless folks, you just get a hold of Dawn Michelle, by the way. A socks box. So some of my history is I was also housing insecure in the past. And I come from a somewhat privileged family in that we have education, but we were always working poor. But I'm not the only person who's faced housing insecurity in my family, and also mental wellness issues. I have the privilege of having had access to healthcare and therapy and recovery, things like that. I have an uncle who died, and we're gonna do trigger warning, I guess, but we've all talked about this, suicide and drug addiction and alcoholism. And these people are somebody. That's another thing that Dawn Michelle said. So I thought I'd bring a letter that he wrote, but instead I'm gonna read a little poem. And if I cry a little bit, please grant me some grace. But he was a very sensitive person. He ended up taking his life. He died of alcoholism and depression is what I say, but he drowned himself. And he was indigent at the time. So this poem, and he wrote a lot of poetry. I have a ton of his poetry that I've kept, but this one, I just want to share with you. It's called Running Off the Deep End. Running, always running, young then and full of youngsters' fears. I ran from everything in joy and for tears. I ran and ran and ran for years, but turning always at your mother's voice. I knew I had another choice, to live within my joy and fears, to let your love relieve my tears, to stop the running years on years, your mother's voice, my youngster's ears. When I was 4 or maybe 3, I can't remember now for sure, I ran along a wooden dock as free as 4-year-olds can be, as far from fear as free can see. I ran from plank to plank in glee. But as I ran to reach the end of solidness, your mother's voice cried out my name in wiser fear than mine, a warning that I wouldn't hear in time. Before I reached the place where wooden safety changed to space and sudden fear my joy replaced, as I turned to find your face and found instead the faceless air, the yawning nothingness of terror space, the freezing dread of loneliness, and then depths of deepest fear, the frogs and fish and unseen beasts of unknown time and unknown space. Yet still, your mother's voice cried out to me, to call me from underneath the deep, to call me back from sleepless sleep. So many times you called me out and call me still from dangers deep, and still I hear your mother's cries, your mother's tears, and feel the fright of mother's fears, and still from down where deepest depths can drown, I climb to reach the air and sky above to hear your voice defining love. David William Hales, my uncle, wrote for my mother, whose voice and love have saved me many times from ends of docks and other things. Thank you. That's all I have.
Next up for District 2, we have Councilmember Denise Fry.
Thank you, President Coughlin. All the folks from the Marvin Williams Center, I remember Bishop Robertson. He was a force when I moved to Kitsap 9 years ago, and I was serving at the YWCA with Harriet Bryant. And he had a vision, and it was a wonderful vision. And I remember that well, and it breaks my heart to see it not realized. It still has the potential of realizing his vision, and we'll do whatever we can to make that happen. I was really struck by the fact that people didn't notice the radical change that has been proposed by Mayor Wheeler and the administration. I'm not even saying that it's a bad or good change. I just think it's a radical change, and it came to council on a Saturday morning of a 3-day weekend. And we've had to respond since then. We're going to be dealing with all this. We promise you, this is a commitment to you. We all have lived experiences up here. We can all tell you stories. And we have a lot of experiences with you that you may not be aware of. But I do want to get back to that letter and what it posed for me when I first read it. Could you bring up the slides, please, Hans? The next one, please. I went into these discussions about this ordinance with what I know now was a false assumption. I believed that when I was asking questions about enforcement, that it wasn't just the legal enforcement. It wasn't just whether something was constitutional or not. It was whether it was operationally enforceable. Because I'm very familiar as the Public Safety Committee Chair that our police department is stretched to its limits. It cannot do any more enforcement. And so as we add things for them to enforce, is it enforceable? Well, that is the dilemma. When a city council member is asking for information as to whether something's enforceable and isn't clarified for her, then I get into that scary place right up there. Because I might make a decision based on a false assumption. Okay, I need the right information, and that is usually from our staff, and a heck of a lot of great information from you. I need that information in order to make a good decision, and I need to be able to consider that information, or else I'm going to take action in the scary place based on a wrong assumption. And we need the time to give this issue the consideration that it deserves. So next slide. What does enforcement mean? Well, I'm just going to clear this up for you because I'm certainly perplexed about it. It's the process of ensuring compliance with laws and regulations. So the city attorney can tell me, does it comply with federal or state law? And she can tell me, is it constitutional? That's important information for me to have, right? However, it's just as important for me to know from the police department, is the ordinance being written in a way that it is enforceable with current resources, or will additional resources be necessary? Where will this fit in our police department's priorities for enforcement? That's information I need to make a decision. And I didn't get it until Tuesday morning. I want to let that sink in. Okay, we've got a problem here. It's a communication problem. I asked for weeks of study sessions. Where is the law enforcement perspective? I am the chair of the Public Safety Committee, and I want to make decisions and recommendations that our police department can enforce. I didn't get that information. All aspects of enforcement have to be considered when we develop ordinances requiring compliance. And the police department's input is critical, and it was missing in this process. I'm frustrated by that. I respect Captain Elton over there. I trust that man with my life. I worked with him at the YWCA of Kitsap County. He was one of the best. He is one of the best. He's got to be able to tell me this stuff. And Mayor Wheeler, I've got to learn this stuff. And it can't be at the last hour. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, next up, we have District 5, Council Member Michael Goodnow.
I want to thank everybody who has offered public comment tonight. I think it shows us the passion on this. It shows us how complex an issue it is. And, you know, that's what we're trying to figure out. We're trying to sort this through and find out, you know, what can work. I do want to kind of separate when we're talking about this very specific camping ordinance. A lot of the other things we've talked about aren't going to be, would never have been included in that. Those are things that may be in the works kind of outside of this this piece. And I also want to mention that when we talk about these green bits of land, we basically looked for places that are city property that could be used. We're not moving people to these places, but it's public land, and we want to make it available if we have that need. And so that's why it would be unenforced in the event that there's no shelter space. So it's complex. Even just this one piece of it is pretty complex. Anyways, again, thanks everybody for their comments. And I don't know if, I don't know, I really think that the council that you see in front of you is maybe one of the best to move this forward. I know it's frustrating to you, and it's frustrating to us, but there are some really progressive folks that want to do the right thing sitting to my left and to my right. So that's all I'm going to say on that. I think I do have a slide. So I wanted to mention there's a new business that's having a grand opening on Callow Avenue. It's Moments. It's an event space. Maybe you could have a quinceañera. It is having their grand opening on September 15th from 4 to 8 p.m. And anyways, it's just, yeah, it's a small one. Anyways, down at 330 Callow Avenue. There's some other exciting things happening down there that I hope to be announcing in the future. I just want to say thanks to all my council members too for putting in the work to get us through this. Thanks. Good night.
Next up for District 6, we have Councilmember Anna Mockler.
Oh, thank you all for your comments. That was I really appreciated that. I've worked really hard to make sure that people are engaged and know how to do all of this. And if I contributed like 0.1% to tonight's turnout, I'm pretty happy. This first speaker, co-leader of E-Race, said, "What happened?" Well, I too would like to know that. It was my understanding 2 weeks ago at our last meeting that the city auditor had looked for city-owned surplus properties at council's direction and had come up with quite a number of them. And our plan 2 weeks ago, I understood, was to find one or more of them that were a suitable next step Final step, no, but a suitable next step where people could go. They could set up tents. They could have hand washing. They could have showers. They could have toilets. They could have a safe place just to store their stuff, right? Because if you're in a tent, you got to keep looking over it all the time. And that we would then move on to things we had talked about, like having this ordinance include 1% of the general fund going to support, to fund services for the homeless, a shelter. We had talked about pallet cities and urban rest stops and moving forward to provide housing, which is a human right. The reason that council was looking for surplus city-owned properties in the first place was to find affordable housing. This was a lucky constellation. We have security guards who are trained in de-escalation, conflict resolution, sympathetic mobilization. We actually have the elements where we could put together something safe for people. I can't really think of any. I'm having a town hall on September 11th. Is there a slide available? Can't really move on to any other topics right now because so I have town halls every month. The next one is September 11th. I used to work in the North Tower, so I'll be going to the memorial service at Evergreen earlier that day, but at 4 o'clock. Choosing life, there will be a town hall. Thank you again, all of you. I'm really happy to be in a compassionate city like this, compassionate and pragmatic.
Next up for District 7, we have Councilmember Eric Younger.
Okay, thank you. So again, I appreciate everybody staying past into the council member reports. This is like a first to actually see more than 10 people here after the main meeting. Usually everybody leaves. So first and foremost, thank you for staying. I listened patiently and intently in everybody's opinion. I'm glad the council did not make a vote tonight, although I am getting rather impatient and did want to have a vote tonight because I think our ordinance is pretty good. It's a compromise. And I want to explain, there's some things that were left out and that are in the ordinance that weren't discussed tonight. And Kylie Fennell can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I have this down pretty well. Our ordinance as it is written right now has been declared unconstitutional by the Ninth Circuit, Martin versus Boise, I believe is the court case. So the city council has to do something. We've had plenty of public testimony and witnessing camping in areas, in residential areas, the Marvin Williams Center, that should not happen. I respect people's property rights. I also respect the plight of homeless people, unhoused individuals, whatever you want to call them. So this ordinance to me is a balance to protect certain areas are off the table. Parks right away, which means across from your houses or next to your houses. Certain city-owned property, police, fire, etc. This map that we all saw should never be used if we actually have available overnight shelters. This is emergency stopgap because if you don't have this map, based on the Ninth Circuit, anybody could camp anywhere if there's no overnight shelter. Let me quickly read available overnight shelters. You understand what it means. According to the ordinance, available overnight shelter means a public or private shelter, transitional housing, and I'm going to put the emphasis here, or outdoor encampment operated or permitted by the city, located within the city of Bremerton, that offers overnight shelter or camping space, again, emphasis added, to persons experiencing homelessness, and shelter staff confirms to a city employee that it has an available overnight space at no cost for that person. Or if no such available overnight shelter is available within the city of Bremerton, comma, public or private shelter, transitional housing, or an outdoor encampment operated or permitted by a public entity within Kitsap County, provided shelter staff confirms to a city employee it has an available overnight space at no cost for that person, and it is accessible to the person by public transportation or vehicle for hire at no cost for that person. So we can get you there if it's in Kitsap County. Okay. That's important to me in that my intention when I mentioned available city-owned properties is that this is, it's like the carrot and the stick. I don't know if that analogy is correct. Forget which one. I want the administration to provide either through the city or working with the county with a camping space as the outlet valve if the traditional shelters, private shelters, transitional housing aren't available. If that's the case, no one is allowed to camp in the green or the red areas, period. So this shouldn't happen. If the administration 2 weeks from now or next week saying, I want the mayor to tell us, are you going to provide this? If he says no, I can't vote for this ordinance, because then we are going ahead and we're taking the people that are in MLK Way and we're putting them in other parts of the city. No, we're just passing the buck. Don't want to do that. I want, and someone said, well, things haven't changed. What happened to all these great ideas? My great idea, and I think hopefully other people's on this council's great idea, is still, if you can't get into an additional shelter, at least have a dedicated camping space or two within the city or within the county that is the next best alternative, where they can be concentrated for their own benefit and for the benefit of the citizens, so they're not all dispersed throughout the city, but also for the benefit of those people so that resources can come to them. And if someone wants help, they all can go to a central location and give them that help at that central location. Hopefully that makes sense. That's the intent that I have when I read this ordinance and when I helped craft this ordinance. That's my intent, and it still remains that way. But again, I had to have this, we had to have this in here because of the Ninth Circuit. If you don't have an outlet valve, that's all this is an outlet valve, then camping can happen anywhere, which includes on your streets, not on your streets, on your sidewalks, on your right-of-ways, in your parks. And I don't want that to happen. So thanks again for sticking to your council reports. And that's my report.
Thank you. And I'll wrap us up here. I just want to acknowledge the anger and frustration folks are experiencing, because I think it's valid. I think we should have a society where nobody suffers from mental health issues or drug addiction, a society where folks don't have to deal with somebody on their front porch or vandalism or crime. And it is of course frustrating we're not there, but this is a large, complex issue. And so I appreciated the recap by a couple of council members because I'm proud of the council for tackling this. It would have been real easy for us to put our head in the sand and say, we don't want to discuss this. This is a tough topic. People are going to come yell at us. But we really took the initiative this year. Folks have asked, what are you doing? This is one small part of it, but it's a part. And so we took the initiative and put it on our goals and priorities to update this ordinance, because as was paraphrased, the Ninth Circuit Court ruling took the existing ordinance and made it unenforceable. So that meant that we went from an ordinance where there's no camping in the city anytime for any reason to now you can camp anywhere, any place, anytime. So right now there is no designated space. Obviously there are some concentrated areas that have occurred. The city is not directing folks to go to any one particular location, but folks have ended up there. So we said we're gonna tackle this. We have spent 5 or 6 study sessions now with active solicitation, public input, really tough conversations. And this is no matter what we do, people are going to be unhappy because this is a no-win scenario. But I do think that we are right on the verge of an ordinance that is quite reasonable. It strikes a good middle ground, and it really is just this ordinance. It's just this enforcement piece. We still have tons of work to do as a city on providing resources, on helping folks. And the solution, I think, is part government, but it's also, of course, our nonprofit partners. It's our community members, and a huge thanks to everyone out there who has pitched in to help folks. But government alone won't solve this issue. And part of it is, I think it's a not only county, but state national issue. I kind of keep saying this till I'm blue in the face. Bremerton is 17% of the county's population. By the current point in time count, we are the identified residents of 60% of those experiencing homelessness. We are also the poorest per capita city in Kitsap as well. And so the city of Bremerton has having an undue burden to provide resources to help people. So my one ask to everybody who's come and spoke up today is I love that know most of you in the room, right? And you're able to come here and look us in the eye, and we're able to have a conversation within the parameters of a government meeting. But my ask is to write to your state officials, write to your federal officials, because I really think what we need is a coordinated state and national effort to provide resources across the entire region. Last comment is a thank you to the mayor for his letter, for giving that input. I want to see us collaborate. We need that input desperately. So a thank you, even if it's at the final hour. I want to make sure we get this as right as possible. And we, assuming it all passes, we can tweak it, we can adjust that. We do that with ordinances all the time, but I think we need to get something passed by next week that we can start acting on, and we can adjust it if it doesn't work. Last, just a good thank you. Thank you for everyone speaking up, coming out, and staying out so late. With that, I'll announce that we do have the next study session that'll be held in the 6th floor council conference room next Wednesday, September 13th, beginning at 5 p.m. with a remote option available by Zoom. That concludes tonight's regular council business. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all once again.